Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Sign in One Punch Man, My Wife is Tornado. Chapter 81. Tornado secretly watched the distant supercar, retracted his gaze, and flew to J City again. But I don't know why, I always feel that the supercar is a bit familiar. Wow, the supercar track suddenly changed track, and it was rushing straight forward, but suddenly turned and flew to a higher cloud. Genos was so frightened that he immediately grabbed the armrest. But he didn't notice, Mubai was also taken aback. The tornado actually restrained the aura around him and was lying in ambush, which caught him by surprise. But fortunately, adapt to the circumstances and change the track. The whole body is covered with a scarlet atmosphere, so the black Rambo should not be seen by the tornado. At this time, there is no time to think so much. Under the speed of galloping, let alone high altitude, look down from the place in front of you. A piece of clear water and blue sky, the whole city is nestled by the sea. The economy of the whole city can be said to be very developed. However, I didn't expect that when everything was comfortable, the strange people in the sea attacked. Oh, what a misfortune. Mubai sighed. With a big wave of his hand, the super track was connected to the end of the mountain in the distance. Discrimination. With one foot on the brakes, Genos couldn't control it any longer. With a squeak, he opened the door and ran out of the car, causing him to vomit. I thought the senior was stronger than the master. It may be scary to run a supercar. Moreover, psychological preparations have been made in advance, but I didn't expect this to be a little scary. This is simply a million scars. Mubai finally got out of the car and looked at the city in front of him. Countless fleeing humans held submachine guns in their hands, and submachine gun bullets kept jumping out of yellow and orange. It hit the monsters in front of him at an extremely fast speed. However, the sound of pin can't break the defense at all. The man in the red scarf gritted his teeth slightly. Beside him, the man with the beard Rasha immediately grabbed the grenade, pulled it away, and suddenly threw it at the team of weirdos in the distance. Ka! The grenade exploded into a cloud of smoke, and the shaggy man shouted, "Run, there's no way to stop them from running." Sure enough, the smoke and dust fell and the voices of the weirdo group were revealed again. There is a combination of a toad and a turtle, a combination of a frog and a snail, all of them are strong, the arms look extremely thick, and the whole body is full of muscles. The image that looked extremely fierce, opened his mouth slightly, and was full of sharp fangs. Like that shark's sawtooth. When have the humans living in this city ever seen such a scene? And these two were holding firearms and grenades, constantly covering the surrounding passers-by to escape, but only because of their usual shooting hobby. In this weird world, I also hope to learn some skills to protect myself and my family. I didn't expect this day to come so quickly. And this scene is happening on the edge of J City. Ha ha ha. As the smoke cleared, the eccentric looked up to the sky and smiled as if he wanted to be a human being. Do you humans on Earth have only this ability? Then it would be better to be eaten by us obediently and replenish your physical strength. He opened his mouth slightly, grabbed the steel beside him, and bit into it in one bite. Click. The solid steel shattered. What? The man in the red hood with the gun cord narrowed his pupils. The rumored monster turned out to be so scary. The strength of the body can directly ignore the firearm, and even the explosion of the grenade cannot cause the slightest damage. Beside him, there are still countless people running out of the building, pushing Mulberry, hugging a few times, crying, forming a crowd. The man gritted his teeth slightly but had no time to pay attention. All he can do is pick up the gun in his hand. More and more bullets of yellow, orange are fired, even if you know that there is no effect, but at this time this is the only most effective means of blocking. It's useless. After the bullet hit, the eccentric patted his belly lightly, and there was no damage at all in the place where he was hit. He laughed wickedly. This is your weapon, it's like scratching a tick. It's good to buy more of this stuff and go back and scratch it. The mocking voice made the man in the red hood turn red. But this was the best attack method he could think of at the moment. Don't go to war, and fight and retreat, protect the masses as the first priority. The bearded man looked calm. We are not heroes, but heroes have not yet appeared. At this moment, we also need to protect ordinary people. The catastrophe has been severe enough to show that C and B level heroes are simply not useful. We just have to drag until A level heroes arrive. Good. The red-turbaned man nodded immediately. At the same time, the entire building also retreated 7 to 88. Good. The man with the beard and Rasha finally smiled, and he pulled the pull tabs of all the grenades on his body. Euro. The man with the red hood was stunned. Go away. Lousy has no family anymore, let me take this fool and die. Tears welled up in the eyes of the shaggy man. The next moment, he rushed down without hesitation, and the monster was full of muscles in front of him. And the man in the red hood, after hesitating for a moment, immediately ran towards the place behind him. Just ran out of 100 meters, and there was a rumbling behind him. With a loud roar, the bomb detonated. But the man in the red-headed machine didn't dare to stop, and no one knew what would happen. And his heart was full of the scumbag man who just gave it to him. Living hope. It's not just happening around the city. Even disasters broke out in countless places at the same time. Alert, alert, please evacuate all personnel immediately. The monster in the sea has attacked, please B-level and C-level heroes must resist and evacuate together with the masses. A-level heroes around the city please try their best to delay the time and save the masses on the premise of ensuring their own safety. The association has notified the S-class heroes to arrive soon. Please don't despair. On the empty streets, huge loudspeakers kept repeating the broadcast. The bustling streets were full of abandoned cars at this time, the roads were full of mud, and there were countless rubbish on the ground on both sides of the roads. There are many traces of human beings stepping on it, and there are also many bloodstains. Just 2 minutes ago, the city suffered an unprecedented attack, all human beings couldn't react at all, and weirdos had already attacked. At the moment when the broadcast sounded, countless people had been killed, but there were still countless people who survived. Those who are not escaped from overseas are shivering in the corner of their own home. Even the human beings gathered in a pile, quietly listening to the sound of the radio. Countless people put their hands together, looking forward to the arrival of the Savior. Everyone, don't panic, we're heroes, now everyone is safe and orderly evacuated. A safe area has been set up. There were also enthusiastic heroes who stood up and raised their arms and shouted. Looking at the panicked crowd in front of me, now that death is coming, this is the time when human nature is revealed. And heroes exist for this time. It's Snake. Immediately there were children in the crowd, recognizing the hero's identity. This is Snake in 38th place in the A class. Although it is only the last hero of the A level, this does not prevent him from having fans. Hero. Only when disaster really strikes. To show how important a hero is. At this time. Afterwards, the ground wasn't as scary as I imagined. Yes, and there are so many delicious foods in front of you. There was a harsh sound of evil laughter from behind. Blah blah blah. The sturdy frog geek was chewing something with his mouth open, and when he looked closely, it turned out to be a human leg, and every time the frog geek opened his mouth, countless shredded meat jumped. Throughout the city, when have the peaceful human beings ever seen such a terrifying scene? Even what I saw in the news was nothing but reports about weirdos, and when it really happened, I couldn't react at all for a while. This disgusting impact made all the humans present nauseated. Vomit. Snake couldn't control it either, and immediately vomited as he squatted aside. K. Huge footsteps sounded from far away. Every sound of footsteps made the hearts of all the humans present beating wildly. Finally, under the incomparably huge footsteps, a figure finally appeared. The huge octopus that has always been huge and completely surpassed the 3-story building appeared, and my tentacles instantly turned into weapons and slapped frantically. Clap clap. In the intensive attack, all the surrounding houses that blocked his steps were smashed to pieces. The red bricks and blue tiles immediately smashed to the ground, smashing up countless smoke and dust. Rumbling. Huge boulders fell from the cracked walls, and also smashed the red and green cars on the street into iron sheets. Finally, he also came to the side of the frog monsters. Seeing this group of humans who were already scared and stupid, he looked up to the sky and smiled. Ha 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 ha. Afterwards, he looked down and saw this group of tiny ants on the ground. Listen to the human beings in front of you. We are messengers from the deep sea. From today, the great deep sea king will unify the earth, and you will exist as slaves and real objects. It is best to give up resistance, otherwise there will be only a dead end. The arrogant attitude immediately made the B rank and C rank heroes on the ground turn ashen. However, one by one, they looked at the destroyed houses in the distance. With such terrifying power, they were simply not able to exert their power. And this time the Hero Association briefing also stated that all B-level and C-level heroes cannot fight at all, and this is indeed the case. Therefore, fighting at this time is probably just death. However, this does not mean that no one will not take action. Gah! A golden lightning flashed right in front of everyone's eyes, and the next second came to the frog monster. With the blessing of the gathering speed, he suddenly clenched his fists and punched the frog monster. What? The frog geek, who was still chewing on human legs, saw a pure white fist infinitely enlarged in his eyes before he could react. Dash dash. The huge eyeballs were as fragile as glass, and countless cracks were punched out in an instant. Even under this huge impact, the figure of the frog monster was also thrown out. Finally, the lightning figure stopped. The crowd also immediately recognized the figure. It's Max, hero, A-class hero, with long golden hair and a thunderbolt symbol on his cheek as the 20th A-level hero. Lightning Max, here comes the hero. At this extremely desperate moment, the crowd immediately boiled. As a relatively well-known hero among the A-level heroes, almost most people know something about it, and even have regular fans. The most powerful thing about Lightning Max is his speed. Looking at the frog eccentric who was blasted out, still lying on the ground, and seemed to have lost his vitality, he also slowly breathed a sigh of relief. At least the weirdo didn't get to that point where he couldn't fight. It doesn't seem to be as terrifying as the association announced, but at this moment, we still can't relax our vigilance. However, the group of humans behind them are still here, which is really troublesome. At this moment, he also happened to see Snake, the 38th rank A-rank hero in the crowd. His face turned pale, and he didn't know what happened. Lightning Max turned into a golden lightning bolt and came to Snake's side. His eyes still looked at the strange person in the distance and whispered, "I will try my best to hold back all the enemies. You take the crowd and evacuate as soon as possible. The safe place has been set up, and the attacking enemy is not the only one." While speaking, he looked solemn. Some immature faces are full of responsibility at this time. Snake gritted his teeth slightly. The disgusting scene just now made him vomit, and he didn't have much strength to fight at this time, and it was a business for all heroes to cover the evacuation of humans. It does not mean that all heroes need to fight against the enemy to prove their heroic status. Such heroic behaviors with impure motives are simply not desirable. Hey, are you discussing something interesting? The octopus monster cracked open its mouth, and the 2 rows of teeth that were counted down were extremely sharp. Extremely sturdy, with a cold glow on the tip. Even a relatively weak frog monster can easily bite through steel, not to mention the octopus monster in front of him. Very scary. Is this the rumored freak? Immediately, there was a sound of crying of children in the crowd. As an adult, you can only hold the child deeply in your arms. Weird people attacked. This is something no one expected, and everything came so suddenly. Even everyone can only see the figure of the strange person in the news, but they did not expect that when the attack happened, the power of human beings was so weak after all. Fortunately, the hero appeared. The last few strong men said seriously, "Hero, I'll leave it to you." "Yeah, Lightning Max, I'm a fan of you. Thank you for saving." Lightning Max. Lightning Max's gaze swept across the faces of several people, and the faces of several men were filled with solemnity. Now is not the time to shirk responsibility or investigate human nature. Go to a safe place. Snake will protect you. Lightning Max nodded lightly. Without any hesitation, he immediately turned his head and looked at the octopus monster. Diapoda. I saw the octopus monster's countless tentacles, frantically slapping everything around it, whether it was a building or the ground. Under this terrifying power, it shattered almost instantly. Rumbling. In the sound of countless cracks, debris flew around again, and a piece of dust was raised on the ground. Quack. Amidst the countless smoke and dust, the thick and powerful tentacles immediately hit Lightning Max. The terrifying power is simply not something that the human body can resist. Lightning Max immediately turned into a streak of golden lightning, and the speed reached the limit in the blink of an eye. After easily dodging 2 tentacles, he saw countless tentacles coming. This dense tentacles are simply restraint for speed heroes. However, all he can do is speed up, jump on the wall beside him, delay time, and let the crowd out of danger as much as possible. This moment, Snake also seized the opportunity and picked up a child. Only then did the crowd react, and they took a deep look at Lightning Max's back one by one. Finally made up his mind to run to the safe area under the leadership of Snake. And seeing the backs of the crowd, Lightning is a hero, Max finally breathed a sigh of relief. In this case, I can finally let go of my fists and fight. The next moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. Yahoo! The figure of the whole person who screamed strangely suddenly disappeared in place, turned into an afterimage, and came to the side of the octopus monster in the blink of an eye. With the strengthening of the ultimate speed, a whip leg kicked the octopus monster fiercely. This is twice as fast as before. However, the next moment came a special feeling, which made his complexion change greatly. The octopus monster is extremely soft and waxy, and this terrifying power seems to be hitting cotton, and there is no response at all. Even in the smoke and dust, as soon as the tentacles arrived, they were caught off guard. Seeing that it was about to be photographed, he hurriedly activated the speed and was about to flee. The figure had already turned into lightning, but unknowingly. Gah, he hasn't responded yet. At the corner of the wall, a slender tentacle suddenly emerged from the ruins, and it was wrapped around his leg in the blink of an eye. The ultimate speed was limited at this moment, and his figure running forward smashed to the ground uncontrollably. Puff! He had a gray face and still had tentacles wrapped around his feet. Behind, only here, caw, caw. The sound of heavy footsteps continued to come from the smoke and dust, and it seemed to shake the ground step by step. This huge power, compared with his power, is simply incomparable. Not at one level at all. Ha ha ha. The big mouth moved, countless teeth collided, and a cold voice, the game is over. The incomparably huge octopus monster's entire body has exceeded the height of a 3-story building. Standing in front of him, he is like a hill, which has completely blocked the sunlight and left a huge shadow. Wrap Lightning Max in it. In the eyes of this octopus monster, Lightning Max completely felt the breath of death. But he still gritted his teeth. It is his mission to fight to the last moment as a hero, and as an A-level hero, he has to stand up, even at the expense of himself, to protect the ordinary people. Just like he knew that the strength of the two sides is not at the same level, he still needs to fight against the vaccine people. Even if he was beaten like a dead dog, it took a long time to recover from his injuries. Still going all out. Next moment, hey. More tentacles were entangled, completely wrapping his limbs, and even the base of his neck was wrapped around a thick tentacle. The tentacles tightened slightly with enormous strength, as if to drop his head. Lightning Max's face turned red in just a few seconds. The gigantic octopus monster, however, seemed not to be in a hurry to kill the so-called hero in front of him, as if he was playing for prey. With the last of his strength, he slammed into the tentacles. But, to no avail, the hard tentacles nearly shattered his teeth. At this moment, the blood in his eyes had already begun to congeal, and even his neck was strangled to the point of flushing, and his cheeks wanted to become a purple eggplant. Despair, endless despair arises in my heart. The most painful moment is this. I just like to admire your tenacious expression. The huge octopus grinned, like a pervert, slowing down the speed of tightening his tentacles again. Lightning Max's pupils have begun to dilate, but he still gritted his teeth to keep himself awake. A trace of blood spilled from the corner of her mouth, and he bit his tongue. In the face of absolute power, his speed and strength can't provide any help at all, and even at this moment, he can only rely on strong perseverance to support it. He didn't know what he was waiting for. In his mind, the determined gazes of those people just now, as well as the incomparable trust in him, appeared in his mind. Surprise at the moment when the hero appears. How much hope can he bring to those who have been saved by him in times of despair? Maybe. It is to buy some time to escape for those people just now. Puff, puff. The heartbeat accelerated sharply, and finally it was the last moment. He couldn't even grit his teeth any longer. Cough, are you finally going to die? For your tenacity's sake, I will turn you into my food after you die, because you have this qualification. The octopus monster aloof, finally put away his playful expression. As soon as my heart moves, I will strangle Lightning Max with tentacles. However, a cold voice also sounded at this moment. Let it go, you can die, or you'll be divided into 8 parts. Dash dash, dash dash, dash dash. Calm footsteps came slowly. The young man's handsome face looks a little delicate, with a flat shirt and a very white shirt at the neckline. At this time, this handsome face is full of indifference. Gently unbutton the cuffs and shake your hands. I slapped a few ghosts to death just now. Mu Bai finally understood a little bit. Tornado's powerful mentality, why? Because in the face of absolute power, no matter how many they are only a few mosquitoes. I ran into a group of mermen just now, but I didn't expect that this group of unfortunate creatures were still discussing how to eat people in front of him. Uncle can bear it, Mu Bai can't bear it. Without the use of chaos magic, with the pure power of the god of destruction, coupled with the current physique. Fist to flesh, almost every punch shatters a body. After a few punches, all the surrounding buildings were a little embarrassed. Just now, a few kilometers away, he suddenly noticed a special life energy, but it became extremely weak in an instant. And this time to get here. Just saw this scene. At the end of this life, Lightning Max finally felt the tentacles on his neck retracted, and a large tract of fresh air poured into the nasal cavity. As if being choked, he was immediately paralyzed and took a deep breath. The octopus monster, with 2 huge eyes rolling, the human in front of him looks ordinary, but for some reason, it seems to taste better than this ground crumb. As a deep-sea family, they have a natural sense of awareness of real objects. He opened his big mouth in the street, stretched out his long tongue, and gently licked the corners of his mouth. Oh, another one. It looks like it's going to be an extra meal today. As for Lightning Max, who can easily subdue, it is better to concentrate on dealing with this strange guy in front of him. Come on. He put up a bit of strength to block in front of Mu Bai. No matter if it is an A-level hero, a B-level hero, or even a C-level hero, he has never seen the guy in front of him. If it's to try to be strong, then only to die. However, unexpectedly, a scarlet light suddenly enveloped him. What's this? Lightning Max was startled and fell into a trap silently. But then he saw that the scars on his body began to recover under the wrapping of these scarlet lights, and even the strength in his body began to recover slowly. A pure white hand stood in front of him. I saw the young man, with his outstretched right hand facing the octopus monster in his eyes, clenching it gently. The octopus monster that was extremely powerful just now. Countless disgusting liquids splashed in front of my eyes. And when these countless liquids approached the two, they were blocked by a scarlet-colored barrier. And Mu Bai slowly closed his hands. The whole action was light and light, as if a scene had just happened. It was a complete illusion. However, all the signs of destruction and the countless disgusting liquids around him were drunk all over the place. All said, everything is true, not a hallucination at all. Under the terrifying power of this young man, he was pinched like this. After a moment of silence, boom, Lightning Max swallowed softly. And the source of everything. It was the young man beside him. Even he never knew there was such an existence in the Hero Association. Okay, the crisis is over, you should also go to evacuation, your physique will recover temporarily, but the energy that has been lost can't be recovered, so you should protect ordinary people. A faint voice came from beside him. Lightning Max turned to look. I saw Mu Bai's figure seemed to be erratic, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. This unpredictable scene made Lightning Max slap his tongue secretly. He finally thought of the legend about the scarlet color just now. The magic knight who was very popular on the internet some time ago seems to be using one-handed magic ability, which is prohibitive. And now to meet, although I didn't feel any pressure from the hero in front of me, but the hand in front of him mainly stunned Lightning Max. I didn't expect it to be the rumored new S-class hero. Fortunate. Looking back from the direction where Mu Bai left, Lightning Max nodded heavily, then the wall propped up his body and walked towards the safe shelter. At the same time, shit, Mu Bai cursed secretly. Even if you arrive, the sign and conditions are not met. This kind of thankless thing is so nutritious. He is not a bad guy who does everything, and his battle conditions have always been based on signing in. No matter what he signs in, it is a reward from the system. And now, Although it has become so powerful, sign-in is indispensable. Hey, sighing lightly, Mubai put away a trace of loss. Because the attack on the Deep Sea clan is not over yet, only the attack of the Deep Sea King is shown in the original play. Legend has it that Genos was defeated in the end. Even in order to protect the civilians, the little girl was almost melted into steel by the Deep Sea King. If Saitama hadn't arrived at the critical moment, I'm afraid Genos would have really died. And now, it's far more terrifying than I know. Mubai stopped. Looking at the empty city in front of me, there is a mess everywhere, and it's ruined. And the information about the Deep Sea King has also risen from ordinary dragon-level monsters to elite-level dragon-level monsters. Even many eccentrics in the deep sea have been upgraded to the level of dragon-level eccentrics. I don't know if it caused the butterfly effect, or the world is not as shown in the comics at all. After all, there are certain changes in a lot of places. And this time, the number of dragon-level monsters has exceeded imagination. The time when the Deep Sea clan attacked humans came too suddenly. At present, I am afraid that all S-class heroes have joined the battlefield. Only under absolute combat power can the rescue time be greatly shortened. However, Mubai is also very aware of the real difficulty of this task, which is actually not high. I'm afraid not all S-class heroes will be shot. If it's just a quick purge, I'm afraid it's enough to leave it to Tornado alone. Feeling slightly, the strong, sun-like life reaction about the tornado has come to J City. However, in the strong perception, the tornado is as easy as a horizontal push. The largest number of people gathered on the edge of the city, these people could not escape the attack of the Deep Sea clan, and could only hide themselves. And this time, the mission of all the heroes is to save these humans. Putting his eyes away, Mubai went in another direction. Under chaos magic, all disguise is meaningless. The real Deep Sea King is actually hidden among the attacking dragon-level monsters, and he treats all heroes equally. However, Mubai is clear. As powerful as a Deep Sea King, he definitely reached the peak of a dragon-level monster. As for the octopus monster just now, it's just a ghost-level monster. And the entire Deep Sea clan's tiger-level troops should not be underestimated. The number is simply unimaginable, followed by ghost-level eccentrics. Can already be used as a squad leader, very orderly, and even conduct attacks with specifications. This is the top priority. And what Bai has to do is to sign into the Deep Sea King battle scene. As for what will be obtained, it is unknown. But, will Saitama appear suddenly? Mubai suddenly had such an idea in his heart. Even though the Hero Association has strictly notified all B and C rank heroes to take refuge, but in the powerful perception of chaotic magic, many low-level lifeforms have arrived one after another in several surrounding cities. Most of these are C and B tier heroes. The spirit of being brave and not afraid of death is indeed worthy of praise. After sorting out his thoughts a little, Mubai didn't stop there anymore, covered with chaotic magic, and jumped into the sky lightly. At the same time, what? So boring. The tornado floated in the air, as if there was an invisible stand holding it up. He yawned, and then waved his hand. The special race that was densely packed and in a strange state was shot into a pile of mud. She was a little bored and rubbed her eyes. Compared with other hand-to-hand combat S-class heroes, Tornado's ability is simply a cheating weapon. And these weirdos in front of him couldn't get there at all. Countless eyes quietly poked their heads from the surrounding buildings and looked over. The advent of heroes made all human beings who were on the verge of death finally see the hope of life, and now there are so many S-heroes that only exist in legends. Bang Ji-yu was not idle either. With one hand of flowing water rock, shattering fist pushed all the way, and the corpses of monsters were piled up on both sides of the road. The terrifying giant power with one hand can directly smash the skull of the monster. An old man fighting a group of weirdos has undoubtedly become the most beautiful scenery in this street. Other S-class heroes have their own bright spots. The money warrior Genos also finally appeared. Reach out. Buzzing. The energy in the chest reflected a slight tremor, and the large-scale energy immediately began to trigger the energy guidance on the hands and arms and the blue catheters in the body. Brush brush. The hands already had blue flames spewing out. Next moment, the energy flame cannon of super crystal size immediately swept the street in front of you. Rumbling. There was a huge tremor on the ground. Under the impact of this terrifying flame energy cannon, the ground was roasted and cracked in an instant, and the surrounding houses were quickly destroyed and aged even under this huge impact. It has been probed in advance, and Genos, who has no life fluctuations, is full of firepower. A pair of electronic eyes, staring precisely at all the weirdos in front of them. When all the weirdos haven't reacted yet, it's all been grilled. However, at the nearest place, its data energy suddenly fluctuates sharply. Countless jumping red dots appeared in the visible range, and it seemed to be a refuge for human beings, while another extremely powerful life energy rushed towards the refuge at a very high speed. Geno's expression changed slightly. As for the street in front of him, at this time, he can no longer manage so much. Immediately, the firepower is fully on, and the flames are sprayed with both hands. When the firepower is fully on, the entire body immediately enters the flight state. Fly to the nearest shelter. J City. A certain street. What's up? The bald-headed devil in a yellow hero suit is standing on the back seat of a bicycle, gently supporting the heroic boy with a hood in front of him with both hands. I saw the brave boy's legs staring fiercely at the bicycle under his feet. Even though his forehead was sweating, he still gritted his teeth. Looks very serious and excited. Because, the city in front of me had an unimaginable disaster just now, and the streets in front of me had become desolate in a short period of time, and the atmosphere was full of wasteland. That bustling city seems to be completely different from the one in front of you. It seems that the legs are a little tired and the speed has dropped a little. Come on. Saitama immediately clenched his fists in a cheering gesture. Good. The heroic young man immediately gritted his teeth and started again, full of energy, even if he was really running out of energy. This heroic drive still moved Saitama slightly, but when he tilted his head, he couldn't help but think of the black Lamborghini. Haven't even experienced that white Bugatti Veyron yet. And the super race above the sky is unforgettable to this day. If there is a chance, I must let Mubai do it again. And after seeing Saitama, the heroic boy was very happy after seeing Saitama and killing the weirdo with one punch, thinking that he could hug his thighs. But I didn't expect it to be just an ordinary B-level hero. However, he is not discouraged. If there are other strengths like this, I am afraid that more people can be saved in J City. This righteous and awe-inspiring young man is none other than the first C-rank hero. Undocumented Knights. However, by this time he was almost exhausted. Finally, 2 minutes later. Saitama jumped off the bike. Arrive. Not caring at all, the unlicensed knight who was already tired and lying down immediately said, "Okay, go to evacuation and leave the next thing to me." After speaking, he walked towards the disaster scene in front of him without looking back. A team of biting people on patrol soon appeared in front of them, similar to holding steel forks in their hands. After seeing Saitama's hero costume, he was stunned for a moment and then immediately launched an indiscriminate attack on Saitama. I am afraid that this team of patrols would never have thought of their unrealistic way of dying. One punch. Unleash an infinite punch. The weirdo was instantly smashed. Saitama was stunned for a moment, put his hands on his eyes, and looked into the distance. What about people? Saitama was immediately stunned. He looked at his fist. Fist wrapped in red gloves. Aren't these monsters on TV very powerful? How come it was solved with one punch? Okay. With a pouting, he continued to move aimlessly. At the same time, the thousands of troops of the Deep Sea Clan were also pushed wildly by the powerful fighting power of countless heroes. The top of a tall building. Deep Sea King. The Sea King clan leader holding the big stick looked ashen. He has no face to face the tall Deep Sea King in front of him. I vowed to let my men go on to open the way, but I didn't expect to be unilaterally crushed by a human hero. Although the city was indeed captured, countless places were also killed, and many human beings existed as food and acted recklessly. But in the face of real heroes, the so-called combat power is simply vulnerable. Even a battle is being launched in the distance, and even he can't guarantee victory. Humph. The Deep Sea King with the face of mosquito and fish glanced at the sturdy Sea King lightly. Sitting calmly on the red sofa, holding his head with his right hand, he quietly watched the battle that was taking place below. His expression was different. After all, for him, all the clansmen are nothing but 297 tools that can be used. Even the entire Deep Sea clan is only a tool in his hands. Now, I did not expect that the counterattack of human beings would come so suddenly. However, when he saw the human beings being hunted down on the street, a playful expression appeared in his eyes, as if he was treating prey. Suck. He stretched out his long tongue and licked his lips lightly, a trace of saliva sticking to it. His lazy eyes seemed to be enjoying a game. And all the subordinates sent out just now are just this sturdy Sea King clan character who originally wanted to invite the headgong to capture the human land. In this way, more merits can be obtained, and even more human beings can be beheaded. But I didn't expect. The Sea Kings, who had lost half of their heads, snorted coldly, and immediately bowed and said, "Deep Sea King, please let us serve you. My clan will not be slaughtered like these idiots." As if a goblin existed, a sharp sound came out of his mouth, which sounded a bit harsh. However, the Deep Sea King nodded lightly. "I'll give you this chance, but if I disappoint me again, I don't mind." There was a hint of danger in his lazy eyes, and he lightly turned to the goblin Sea Kings in front of him. Brush. The low star Neptune felt the icy gaze, and immediately trembled. Although they still obeyed, none of the Sea Kings present had the intention of not obeying, and the purpose was to attack more human land. The Deep Sea King in front of him is a devil who really eats Sea Kings without spitting out bones. Forcibly crushed all existences with powerful strength, and occupied the position of the Deep Sea King. And now it is starting to attack the ground without stopping. Thinking of the same kind eaten by the Deep Sea King, everyone present could not help trembling slightly. Fortunately, one by one, they left the Deep Sea King and joined the battle. The existence of the Patriarch is equivalent to the ordinary dragon-level combat power, and already has a strong combat power. And the top of the huge tall building. The Deep Sea King grabbed a female Sea King, and didn't care whether the latter was willing to force his hand suddenly. Tear. The shabby clothes have been torn, revealing a pair of ZXX not small jumping, and immediately put their hands up and down. The roaring sound below, the sound of fleeing, and the sound of human fear, all stimulated the Deep Sea King's powerful five senses. And the sky is already a little wet. I am afraid that there will be a heavy rain soon. This heavy rain is also about to bring about a perfect washout, allowing all the Deep Sea clans to improve their combat effectiveness. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated. He pushed in. No one else knows anything about the top of the building. Throughout the city, different battles are taking place everywhere. Saving human beings is the primary purpose. Others don't matter. There are too many types of weirdos. Try not to fight. Tongdi held a lollipop in his mouth, and his words were unclear. Using the brain for a long time requires continuous intake of sugar, which is also a drawback of high IQ. However, a middle A-level hero immediately echoed loudly. "Good. Listening to Ping D must be right. In that case, let's do our best." "Go on." Heroes with melee weapons shouted in unison. When the monster attack happened, when was it so exciting now? You must know that large and small attacks occurred on this battlefield at the same time, and all those who came to fight. Some of them are S-class heroes. Don't look at the little boy in front of you, he is still young and tall. You must know that this little guy is the fifth child's voice in the rumored S-class, a real S-class hero. Not to mention how excited all the heroes present were. In normal times, S-heroes are unattainable existences, but now they exist on the same battlefield. Speaking of which, everyone has already fought with S-class heroes. This kind of reputation spreads out, it is not too cool. The long-range heroes have special firearms in their hands, and the heroes who already hold slingshots and arrows do have a lot of dazzling combat power. The countless deep-sea clans that came from afar were slaughtered before they even showed up. Zhongdi did not look this way. Drop. Click on the watch on the left hand, and a transparent blue projection immediately pops up. Countless red dots flicker on it, representing the vital signs of human beings, as well as the blue energy signs representing tiger-level monsters, the green energy signs of ghost-level monsters, and the red dragon-level monsters. This instrument can only do so far. But enough. Tear. After tearing open a lollipop again and holding it in his mouth, Randy also walked towards the person who needed rescue. Even in the countless safe areas that have spread throughout the city, there are also many A-level heroes guarding them, but it is still a little insignificant for the large number of Deep Sea Clan attacks. Ordinary A-level heroes can easily deal with tiger-level monsters, but if they want to defeat ghost-level monsters by themselves, they are somewhat powerless. However, many A-level heroes gathered together, and even if they couldn't defeat the ghost-level monsters, they could at least escape easily. Zhang Di pursed his lips slightly. Dragon-level monster. Powerful combat power, even A-level heroes will be instantly crushed. Even, the heroes at the back of the S rank may have a bit of difficulty trying to defeat the dragon rank monster. That's why he was so anxious. However, all the S heroes have arrived, and this disaster is to quickly rescue the human beings. It is definitely not a blessing for the eccentric to fight against so many S heroes. I can't be left behind. The Emperor grinned, immediately went to the nearest human safety zone. And in other areas, brush. Every time the atomic warrior uses his sword, he sees countless afterimages flashing past the strange person in front of him, which has been evenly divided into countless tiny particles. The powerful combat power made the strange person in front of him tremble. But the Deep Sea clan, the patriarch of each clan, has already issued an order that more human cities must be captured, otherwise there will only be a dead end. 0. These low-intelligence Deep Sea clans will only obey orders unconditionally. Unlike the Deep Sea clans with intelligence in front of the gate of inheritance, they can think. To be honest, these are just cannon fodder. Why? Atomic Samurai spit. In the continuous battle, there is a little bit of weird and disgusting liquid on his body. Thinking that these are all special species in the deep sea, the atomic warrior felt nauseated. I will never eat seafood again. Almost all battles are one-sided. Bang Ji-yu smashed the flowing water rock with one hand, showing no mercy. All the weirdos encountered along the way were all smashed into slag, and all the individuals had lost their combat effectiveness the moment they encountered Bangu. Even, ghost-level geeks are under Bang Ji-yu. He was tortured like a schoolboy. The Battle of the Tornado looks even more unreal. With a big wave of his hand, all the obstacles blocked in front of him were instantly shot out and shot directly into scum. The entire city has the largest area of any city. It is also the most prosperous city, but it is not a post like other cities to ensure the safety of the masses, so it is also the fastest city to be breached after the monster attack. Most of the people in the city are trapped today, and once the city is turbulent, it will have an extraordinary economic impact on the entire world. That's also where it's important to call out all the S-class heroes. North of the city, a huge stadium looks like a huge eggshell-shaped sphere from the outside. At this time, a huge steel fence has been raised outside the stadium. A huge fortress composed of countless metals is displayed in front of you. And this is also a safe area for humans to the north of the city. At this point in the safe zone, no human beings stood in fear. Women hugged the children in their arms tightly, and men who cared about them hugged their family members tightly. And the crowd was divided into numerous groups. There are those who are terrified, there are those who wait quietly and anxiously, and there are even secretly many human beings who have already shown bad eyes at the hero. There are many A-level heroes scattered around the edge. We'll be fine. The hero has arrived on the scene. You must believe in heroes. Many A-level heroes are still launching mobilization. After all, when dealing with despair, only with hope can people more easily overcome difficulties. Snake is in it. Compared with the pale snake who vomited, his complexion recovered a lot at this time. However, when he remembered that scene, his face was still a little bit unbearable. Lightning Max is also here. After being rescued by Bai, he followed the pace of the large army and moved here as a whole. Fortunately, there was no danger. In front of you. Uncle, will we be fine? The girl with a pink bow on her head looked at Snake angrily. The two big eyes twinkled and looked very cute. Yes, I will. Snake nodded seriously immediately. Sudden boom. Above the entire gymnasium, a loud voice suddenly came. This time, everyone present jumped. Almost everyone looked at the top position at the same time. Stab. Then, a very harsh sound came out, as if forcibly scratching steel. Not good. Lightning Max's expression changed drastically. Because at this time, a sharp and strong nail has forcibly dug up the gym barrier above everyone's head. This is weird. Grumbling. The slippery body has countless mucus, the octopus monster with its teeth and claws, the huge tiger fish head, and countless yellow spots, but at the same time, it has a human-like body, which is as huge as a hill. Big Hand grabbed it. Thorn. Sharp nails scratched at the steel, making a harsh sound. After jumping off his body, two huge eyes like basketballs approached the gap, gurgling at the humans in the gym below. Euro oahaha delicious. Euro. There was a frantic joke in his mouth, and the cracked mouth immediately exposed countless teeth that were like shark serrated teeth. It looked extremely sharp and somewhat scarlet. There are a few shreds of meat hanging between the teeth. What is it? Everyone present couldn't imagine it. Because before escaping here, I had just seen the scene of weird people eating people, and at this moment, countless people's psychological defense lines have collapsed. Sitting down with a plop, even if there are so many heroes in front of him, I am afraid it will not help. Lightning Max turned pale. This weirdo was seen when he was patrolling the block before coming to him, and even a very famous A-rank hero couldn't go around under this monster's hands. It seems that all monsters have one thing in common, that is, in the face of weak humans, they like to play with them and then eat them. And this monster is a little bit special. It's definitely not a waste of time to be able to eat something like this. Those sharp claws can easily shred steel, the terrifying speed is even comparable to his, the huge body, and the force of the punch is enough to shatter countless buildings with one punch. This terrifying monster is not an existence he can deal with at all. According to the destructive power I have seen, I am afraid it has already reached the level of dragon level monster level 10. That is, at the moment, dangerous. And seeing so many humans in the gym, the monster's eyes were already red. Thorn. He frantically stabbed the huge steel building that surrounded the entire stadium, using the huge stadium shell made of stainless steel, and he couldn't escape the sharp claws of the monster at all. Even a building that cannot be destroyed with a single claw is enough to leave a deep dent. 2 claws and 3 claws go down, the steel is already unable to bear, it makes a sound of being overwhelmed. Snake leaned over. What to do? He gritted his teeth slightly, and the monster in front of him was unimaginable. For a hero like him who could only sue a few, he would have been torn apart by the monster if he couldn't get close. Moreover, the huge and hard steel building of the entire stadium seems to be just a little harder iron sheet under the monster's hands, which is enough to show the terrifying destructive power of the monster. And behind, there are countless human beings who have taken refuge here, and some are even injured or unable to escape. This is a relatively large safe area. Once the monsters really come in, it's probably unstoppable. At this time, as a human, Snake felt the fear of death from his soul. But as a hero, he could only grit his teeth and stand in front of everyone. There's no other way, I can only bite the bullet. Lightning Max looked firm. Having just experienced life and death, all he can think of is delaying time. But how long can it be delayed? What can be done is probably only delaying the arrival of S-class heroes, or stronger heroes. Wait for the little bugs, this uncle will eat you soon. Appeals for eccentrics came out, sharp taunts. Thorn. The 2 claws stabbed the steel in front of him harder. It turned out that the lip of the hut that was caught was getting bigger and bigger, and it was enough for its head to come in, and the slippery octopus tentacles spread, showing its teeth and claws everywhere. Clap. Crazy slapped the surrounding buildings, struggling to get in. But fortunately, his body is too huge, and he can't get into it for a while. Withdrawing his head, he could only still stretch out his sharp claws and stab at the steel frantically. Seeing the entrance getting bigger and bigger, Max knew. Can't wait any longer. I'll come first. Before he finished speaking, Lightning Max turned into a golden lightning bolt, disappeared in place, and rushed out towards the monster. Kiss ha! A special roar came from his mouth. This and that gave him strength and courage. Rumbling. A thick layer of flames immediately covered his fists, but his hero gloves could just offset the scorching caused by the flames. The rapid speed combined with this power can also be regarded as a short-term forced explosion. Next moment, a small fist, one punch hit the eye part in the middle of countless tentacles. But, this punch seems to hit the steel. The physical strength of this monster is not at the same level as the previous monster. Even if it hits the eyes, it can't cause any shaking. When he missed a hit, he quickly degenerated into a bolt of lightning and returned to his original place. I saw that the eyeball of the monster seemed to fluctuate in a sense of hierarchy, and the power that Lightning Max hit just now was like hitting a lake. After slowly fluctuating, the monster's eyes returned to calm again, and at the same time, he put his head into the crack. You have to remember that yellow-haired boy, Lousy will eat you first in a while. How come? Snake looked surprised. The punch of the flame on the door just now was the strongest attack method of the hero Lightning Max, who became famous in the first battle. In the past, this punch directly severely injured the tiger-level monster, and could even fight the ghost-level monster to a certain extent. And now, it hit the monster's familiar eyes, and it didn't make any waves at all. Instruction. This is a dragon monster. Slowly spitting it out again and again, he was shocked. What to do? Once this monster breaks through the inside of the gymnasium, I am afraid that there will be no luck for those present. Look back. Fearful expressions appeared on the faces of countless people. This kind of expression is too familiar, and every time it encounters despair, the nature of human beings to fear is exposed, just like the despair before death, and it is impossible to resist. Dragon-class monster. This makes him a strange person that he will never be able to touch in his life. At this time, it appeared in front of everyone's eyes, and people had inherent self-knowledge, including Snake, who knew how difficult it was to defeat a dragon-level monster. He clenched his fist slowly, and the feedback came from his own strength, but it was so clear at this moment. What to do? Even Lightning Max can't deal with this monster. Are we going to die here? No, even if I die, I won't be eaten by monsters. Monsters, go home and see your grandma. Hero, what should we do? The crowd began to be restless and panicked. Countless people looked at each other, only to see endless fear and despair in each other's eyes. And under this scene of showing humanity, countless families hugged tightly together. Even if life enters the last moment, everyone will not leave. Humans with a sense of justice have raised their fists and shouted the name of a hero. Come on, heroes, you can do it. Hero. Looking at the heroes who slowly gathered in a pile in front of him, and the heroes with black faces who kept walking out of the crowd. This battle is like death, and there is no room for survival, because all the A-level heroes present are very clear that they cannot defeat the monsters at hand. At this moment, they are heroes. Even some B-level heroes slowly walked out of the crowd after looking at each other. A B-level hero who owns a family, gently stroked her daughter's head. Her daughter's hair was messy. With a relieved smile, look at how Dad beat this monster. Save you and Mom. Come on, Dad. The little girl smiled innocently. You are Mother's Prince Charming. Yes. The woman next to her showed a bitter smile. Even at the last moment of her life, she must create a fairy tale feeling for her daughter. When the man heard it, his nose was sour. This battle was completely equal to death. He couldn't bear to take another look at his wife and children, and resolutely entered the ranks of heroes. Looking at the man's resolute back, the woman finally had a sore nose and couldn't hold back, and tears dripped from her eyes. Seeing this scene, almost everyone present was silent. However, not everyone is being kind. Why are these heroes so weak? Are we continuously paying taxes to the Hero Association to let a bunch of rubbish protect us? Just say your group of heroes, why do you want us to die here? The safe zone, this is what you call the safe zone. Never trust the Hero Association again. Countless mocking voices emerged from the group of people. One by one, with acrid faces, ugly words came out of their mouths, and the people around them were slightly moved. At this time, everyone, Snake's low head finally lifted up, looked at the crowd and shouted, all heroes will try their best to delay time, you run away. Even at the cost of your life. He bit his lip so hard that it was bleeding. He clenched his fists tightly in his hands, his nails sank deep into his flesh, and the pain was transmitted to his mind through his nerves, stabbing every heartstring. And this moment's decision has successfully shut everyone up. However, it hasn't waited for everyone to react. Crunch. A big hole was finally dug in the extremely hard and fine steel shell above the gymnasium. Sunlight came from this opening, but less than a second. The sun is completely blocked. Kiss. What is the escape plan for Zai Shang? The slippery octopus head burrowed in again. The weird man's big cracked mouth burst out with endless ridicule. Ha 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 ha. I'm still dreaming now. Of course you can't escape. and I will eat all of you already hungry in the deep sea, I don't know how long, I really hope you can fill my belly. Next moment, puff, a huge figure like a hill descended from the sky. A pair of big feet stomped on the ground. Click. The neat and smooth wooden boards shattered in an instant, and the boards were broken into pieces and flew around. And the eccentric finally revealed his true body. The incomparably strong muscles are all over the body, and they have strong limbs like humans, but the height of the weirdo is huge, like a hill, blocking everyone's sight. The head part is like a tiger fish, but there are countless tentacles around the neck, and the fist is clenched on the sturdy arm, which is the size of a door frame. The purple sharp nails glowed with a cold light, and he slowly raised his head. He looked at all the humans in front of him, and then opened his mouth wide to reveal a smile that suffocated everyone. Hunt, start. At the same time, Genos with full firepower flew in the air, and after passing through countless buildings, there were finally a lot of red dot fluctuations in front of his energy. These are totally human hot reactions. But another huge energy fluctuation that is beating rapidly seems to have also reached the side of the human hot spot. This shows that I am afraid that strange people have begun to attack human beings. Have to speed up. He gritted his teeth slightly. Wow, white steam spewed out of his chest, and the blue energy and madness flowed directly inside. All the energy generated in a short period of time was almost full of firepower. The blue conduits all over the body immediately spewed out, and countless blue energy suddenly lit up. Boom! The two palms of the two palms were constantly spraying flames, and the firepower suddenly increased. Boom! The earth burst into extreme high temperature in an instant, and the ground couldn't bear it at all. The ground made a crackling sound, and it continued to dry and crack, including where Genos passed, the greenery was completely dried. But Genos' speed has also improved 2 notches in the blink of an eye. 200 meters. The electronic eyes counted the final countdown, and Genos' eyes showed magnifying effects. An eggshell-shaped gymnasium appeared in the distance, and countless steel-enclosed buildings were unexpectedly digging a huge hole from the outside by a strange person. Ah, help! And the screams of humans happened to be heard in the gym. Genos' face froze. The 19-year-old boy. Angry. Inside the gym. Ha ha ha, you bugs are really good at running. My favorite prey can be enjoyed by me when it is at its best, and now the ultimate activity can make your flesh more active. Suck. The monster with the head of the tiger fish stuck out his long purple tongue and licked the corner of his mouth, leaving a lot of slime that looked very disgusting. However, the heroes in front of them, whether they are A rank or B rank, have already been disgraced, and no one has the strength to answer such words. The stadium that was originally empty was forced to be replaced by a mess at this time. The ground of the basketball court is completely cracked, and it seems to be everywhere, forming a cracked point, and it seems that every step has a huge force to open the ground. The 2 basketball hoops were now a pile of scrap iron lying on the ground. The light bulbs in the air were smashed, sparks flickered occasionally, and all the chopping boards at the table tennis balls had completely collapsed, and nothing could be seen. Is Snake all right? Ha ha, Lightning Max gasped. There were already countless wounds all over his body, and even his left arm was dripping with blood. He gritted his teeth slightly, but the pain caused by each running was transmitted to his mind through nerves, but at this time there was no other way but to persevere. Looking at the corner, there are still people, but they have not escaped. Alas, Snake just opened his mouth, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Just now, a tentacle slammed into his chest uncontrollably. At this time, his chest was in great pain, and his internal organs seemed to be displaced. He was pretty sure he had definitely broken a few ribs. However, with a touch of the corner of his mouth, roar, spit out the blood in his mouth, he still stood up with his body supported. 2 A-level heroes are in such a miserable situation, and other B-level heroes are even more so. There are even B-level heroes buried in the mouth of the weird person in front of him, and the dismembered and torn body does not show any appearance at all. There are traces of fracture left on the bones, which were forcibly torn off by the Gobi monster. Clap clap. Gobi monster's countless octopus tentacles slap frantically around. All heroes simply cannot get close, let alone hit an effective attack. Bew bew bew, J. A firearm fired mechanical bullets, and the B-level hero wearing a hood stood in the distance and kept outputting. But, too slow too slow, too slow. Gobi Geek teased. Kick kick. The two big feet stepped on the ground frantically, and the running speed was really not slow, but this was only to the extent that the drama required. After the first hunting, I frantically brought down countless humans, including many heroes. The sugar fell to the ground, and it has already formed a blood. Being thrown into the corner by the goblin monster is like throwing garbage. However, at this time, they could not move at all, nor could they escape from the fate that awaited them. That is to be eaten. As for what the Gobi Geek said about hunting, it's really like a play asking for prey. Although the heroes were very angry in their hearts, there was absolutely nothing they could do. Seeing that there are so many human beings here, for a while, the Goblin Geek is disdainful to eat it at the first time. He knew very well that the golden-haired one was the most delicious, and the flesh all over his body exuded a special fragrance. Sudden, the huge force knocked down the basketball hoop next to it. Ha, ha, the basketball that rolled from the basketball hoop bounced in front of the Gobi monster. Looking at this round thing, he was not afraid of him. He stretched out his sharp fingernails and lifted the basketball on the ground. Slight force. Sigh. The basketball was cracked, and the gas inside was expelled. Tiger and Freak threw the shiny leather basketball into his mouth, but spat it out the next moment. Fear fright, it's your human stuff, it's really unpalatable. However, the next moment, clap clap, he patted his stomach and smiled. If that's the case, then it's time to eat. Saying that, he jumped suddenly. The B-level hero who was running wildly on the second floor of the gymnasium didn't have time to react. Gah! The 5 cold rays of light have precisely cut open her body. Ah! The last thing the hero saw was her fallen body, accompanied by endless pain, darkness, and then lost consciousness. Lightning Max gritted his teeth. But at this time, he could only watch the disaster happen, and there was no way to stop it. There is not much power in the whole body. Even I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to escape. The goblin monster on the second floor glanced at the corpse that he had thrown away on the ground, and didn't dislike it. He picked it up and threw it into his mouth. Click, click, just like biting the rice, countless fine blood flowed out from the corners of the mouth. Just like a shark, there were shreds of flesh jumping between the serrated teeth, and it looked extremely disgusting. This scene made the remaining heroes even paler. And a hero lying on the ground has closed his eyes in despair. Finally, put the last piece of the body into the mouth. Boom! The goblin monster jumped high, and then landed suddenly. The weight that the ground could not bear suddenly burst open, and he kept chewing and moving his mouth, looking up at the remaining heroes in front of him. The ordinary next to him who could not escape has been ignored by him. Gaba gaba, twisting his neck, countless tentacles of the tiger fish geek came back to life again. This time, he stood on the spot, but the countless tentacles seemed to be able to expand indefinitely, and quickly collapsed and entangled in the heroes. Snake tried to resist, but the tentacles around him grew tighter and tighter. Click! The broken bones made him immediately want to shout. However, there was no chance to meet it. It was a huge mouth with serrated teeth like shark teeth, and it could be seen that there were a few shreds of meat. Don't. At this moment of death, Snake waved his hands frantically, trying to prevent the tragedy from happening. However, it didn't help at all. It was about to be buried in the monster's mouth. Sudden a euro. Click. The sound of glass shattering came. Quack. A bunch of flying objects flashing with cold light hit the entangled tentacles. Under the extreme speed, the flying object finally appeared in front of everyone. Like steel, the indestructible tentacles were easily cut off under this flying object. Gift. More tentacles were cut off. Who is it? The Gobi monster was surprised. Seeing that the cold light was about to slash towards him, he clenched his fist and punched the cold light. The flying object was punched back. Ha! Snake was unable to see that he was about to fall to the ground. The next moment, a cold breath came from his body, and he looked up. The blonde short-haired robot grabbed his sleeve and kicked up. The handsome face looks very young. Quack! And the flying object that flew out just now finally flew back in a whirl. Genos stretches out his arm. Click! The flying object can only drill into the arm of the mechanical body, close it again, and a sharp blade suddenly reappears. He put Snake next to him. Genos also turned his head to look at the monster in front of him. Look at each other. Everything came so suddenly, even before everyone could react, Genos had already fallen from the sky. And now, not to mention, kick kick, the tiger fish monster who had cut off countless tentacles ran wildly, his huge body trembled, and the whole body was covered with thick muscles. Genos didn't care either and used his right arm. What? Another wind blade's arm blade popped out, and after glancing at the human beings in countless bloody amber, Genos rushed towards the monster with a cold face. It's time to verify what you will gain by practicing non-stop for so many days. Gym battles are on the horizon. And somewhere on the roof, countless scarlet colors slowly condensed. Like a phantom, Mubai's figure had already appeared. Next moment, his face darkened. I saw a war going on in front of me. Neptunes with female features appear to have become delirious. And the Deep Sea King, but it seems that he does not want to stop. Finally, in the next second, it ends with a roar. The next one picked up the Sea Kings with feminine features in front of them, and threw them aside like garbage. He also doesn't care that XX is exposed to the air. He picked up the clothes next to him. Very indifferently, he turned his back to Mubai and said coldly to Nuo Zhao, "Are you the so-called strong human being? Tell me, how do you want to die?" Indifferent voice, arrogant attitude. At this moment, it seems to bring out the image of a domineering president. However, this strange appearance, ears like mosquitoes, fangs like shark teeth, and long green beards, can be seen clearly by almost everyone. This is not a human being. Next moment, sing. A scarlet light suddenly appeared on the neck. In a short moment, it condensed into substance, as if a silk thread crossed the neck of the Deep Sea King. Ah, the Deep Sea King hasn't reacted yet, and then the vision in front of him is spinning. Gollum. A round head slid to the ground. Deep Sea King. Graduated. Died. Just finished enjoying S. Mubai took a shot. Under the gravitational pressure of chaos magic, this head was instantly crushed into powder. Mubai looked unhappy. Just talk, what are you pretending to be a slave? I originally thought that the legendary Deep Sea King really had some great power. It can also test to what extent the chaos magic and powerful constitution are now. Looking at it this way, this is not pure disgusting. With a big wave of his hand, countless scarlet colors encase the unconscious Sea King and the Deep Sea King body, and a storm of normality has been generated. In the scarlet-colored package, it was like being cut by wind and sand, and in the blink of an eye, the eyes were empty. Turn around. Chaos magic covered his entire body, and Mubai flew in the direction of the energy reactor. At the same time, inside the gym, from the beginning of the battle, it gradually entered the white-hot level. Amazing guy. The tiger fish monster has been put away, and the initial contempt showed a dignified look in his eyes. However, he did not expect that this robot-like human hero in front of him would be able to display such a powerful combat power, which caught him off guard for a while. At the very beginning, all his tentacles had been cut off by Genos. At this moment, the physical strength is greatly consumed. Haha, the chest heaved up and down greatly, which showed that the tiger fish monster had consumed a lot of physical strength. Genos' eyes lit up, and he would definitely not miss such a good opportunity. Immediately throwing off his arms and raising the two arms, a sprint has already rushed towards the Gobi monster. The long-term battle energy and the energy savings have been used up, but I saw a human lying in the blood in the distance. It has gradually lost its voice. Genos no longer hesitated. However, the tiger fish monster was obviously superior in skill and despicable, and immediately a donkey rolled around, dodging the flying arm blade. In the next second, the long tongue that stretched out was already wrapped around him, a human being who was about to die. Ah, no ah. The man with the broken legs immediately fluttered his teeth and struggled frantically. However, he couldn't react at all. His entire body had already been swept into the giant mouth of the tiger fish monster. The big lips that covered the sky were covered, and no one could be seen. Click, click, huge bite force, under countless shark-serrated teeth, crushed up and down. Soon there was the sound of bones shattering, and Genos also noticed that the human life reaction in the monster had disappeared. Snake, who was lying on the ground beside him, gritted his teeth. Lost a human again, which shows that their hero can't protect at all. In the face of such a strange person, ordinary human beings have no possibility of surviving, and only all heroes have the power to fight, but they have already been beaten and disabled for more than The only thing that can be done so far. Hero, come on. Come on. They can only cry out. Click. Genos landed steadily with a backflip, and the arm blade reinserted into his right arm, making it impossible to let go of his hands and feet when fighting. However, the figure at this time also stood in front of all the injured humans. Gently raising his head, he looked at the tiger fish monster in front of him. Drip. The electronic eye emits a very special prompt sound. The cousin representing the energy has reached 40%, and the red mark next to it shows the 2-minute countdown, and at this time Genos can no longer take care of that much. Even if it's only for 2 minutes, you still need to fight the monster in front of you. And training in a short period of time has also achieved certain results. In the beginning, the very neat stadium was destroyed in a mess, and it was broken everywhere. There were cracks on the ground everywhere, and it looked shocking piece by piece. Countless construction equipment lay down on the ground, already damaged and out of shape. From the outside, it looks more like the moving team has carried out blasting work. And only the human beings lying in their blood reminded everyone all the time that the disaster that happened in front of them was extremely huge. And it stimulates everyone's nerves and vision all the time. Finally, with a thud, the goblin geek swallowed the body in his mouth. Accompany. Brush brush. The countless thick tentacles on the neck began to grow again, but in the blink of an eye, they grew thick and strong, and they were full of strength. It turns out, seeing this scene, Genos' face sank. And the other people also changed their faces. No one expected that this weirdo would have the same ability as super recovery at a critical moment, making Genos more difficult to fight again. And the monster on the opposite side also threw his fists. Caw! 2 pairs of huge fists slammed together, making a loud "bite" sound. Suck! He stretched out Scarlet, licked the corners of his mouth with his long tongue, and then stretched out his fingers one by one to point at the humans on the ground, including the 2 heroes Snake and Lightning Max next to him. Next, you will all be my rations. But this mechanic. His big hand touched the corner of his mouth. I just don't know if your taste is good. The huge mouth moved, revealing countless sharp teeth, and even the mouth was full of scarlet blood, looking extremely disgusting. Next moment, boom! After a charge, the body of the tiger fish geek suddenly ejected. The ground suddenly burst, leaving countless debris. He clenched his right fist and hit Genos hard in the face. So fast, Genos' pupils shrank and it was too late to think about the power that suddenly burst out, even he didn't think of it. Only had time to raise his arms to block in front of him. Caw! The incomparable strength came through the arms. The fist that was able to be resisted just now could not be obtained at this moment. Click! Genos was full of shock, looking at the shattered steel machinery fragments next to his eyes, and the fragments slowly slid across the corners of his eyes. And this huge force has not stopped. Caw! I saw that Genos' hard body slammed into the wall with a bang, and the huge force caused Genos' body to sink deep into the steel wall. Warning, warning. The mechanical body is destroyed, and the kinetic energy is reduced by 1%. The voice of artificial intelligence came from his ear, and Genos responded. Pulling out his body from the wall, he finally understood. The monster in front of me is getting stronger again. The same moment. Where is it? Where is it? Why can't I see a single person for a long time? The bald-headed devil wearing a yellow hero suit kept looking away on the road. Sometimes it even jumped up slightly, and the whole figure seemed to fly up and landed on a 100-meter-high building. Looking into the distance, after discovering the figure of the eccentric, he has not waited to say that the eccentric has run away. This scene is just too much. Chicken. Finally, after defeating a few weirdos, he also found out where there are powerful weirdos. Dash dash. The footsteps stopped, and a huge eggshell-shaped gymnasium appeared in front of him. From the outside, it looks like it directly blocks the sun. The huge volume is located on the ground, as if it has countless floor space, and the entire stadium is completely composed of steel buildings. So big. Saitama slowly raised his head, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The entire city is the most developed and the most prosperous city among all the cities, and in the poor and barren city Z, such buildings cannot be seen at all. And where I used to work, I can only occasionally look at the tall buildings opposite, and look forward to a better future. It was the first time that Saitama could not help but be excited when he saw such a grandiose, even more majestic than the building of the Hero Association branch. However, I saw a forcibly torn opening above the huge building. Saitama knew that there was absolutely nothing good in sight. However, just one glance was enough. He didn't have much expectation for the building in front of him, and immediately raised his foot and walked towards the huge gymnasium in front of him. Above the sky, the bald man is here too. Mubai was slightly taken aback. If there was anyone else in this world, he could not find out that there was only one person, and that was the bald-headed devil. Although the entire bald-headed devil is an ordinary human body, the power contained in it is probably far more than the energy of millions of stars exploding. And if the bald-headed demon king wants to show a normal body, then using chaos magic in Mubai can't detect Saitama's position. At this time, he had just flew right above the stadium, and what he saw now was the huge hole where the steel stadium was forcibly torn. Looking down from here, it happens that Genos is fighting a special officer. Roughly do energy estimation. A Dragon class. Mubai immediately determined the level of the weirdo in front of him. The energy emitted is much different from the Deep Sea King just now. It's Genos. The punch and the kick are full of strength, and they seem to have practiced some kind of special swordsmanship. In the frantic swing of the back blades on the arms, they can actually block the monster's tentacle attack, and even counterattack it, cut off. However, the monster seemed to have eaten a stimulant, and the interrupted tentacles recovered in an instant, and even grew thicker and longer. Kick kick. 2 pairs of punches the size of sandbags slammed into Genos' body. New York. Click. The huge power, and then Genos' incomparably hard steel body, was simply unstoppable, and every collision was filled with countless pieces of steel, overflowing. Ka. With another punch, Genos' arm broke. One stuck on the ground. It can be concluded. The monster let out a long breath. The Iron Hero in front of him is really difficult to fight, and it has caused him a lot of trouble. The incomparably powerful regeneration ability will disappear after a period of use. Even the poet can only recover his physical strength for a short period of time, and cannot support it for a long time. Finally, he seemed to finally see the scene where Genos was dealt with. Sudden crunch. A sour voice came from outside. Then there was only a bald head in a hero costume. His right hand forcibly tore a hole in the steel building, and walked slowly with gentle steps. But seeing the monster in front of him, he just ignored it as if he didn't see it. Noisy. Genos. Saitama reached out and said hello. There was a smile on the bare face of the braised egg. Quote. The surrounding human beings lying in a pool of blood were speechless. What time was it, and they still wanted to say hello to the hero in front of them. Genos immediately respectfully said, "Teacher." This respectful attitude immediately changed the impression of Saitama among those lying in a pool of blood. In the sky, Mubai, who was wrapped in scarlet magic, also slowly descended and walked away. Senior. Genos was immediately surprised. Okay. Bai nodded lightly. With his arms around his chest, with a wave of his hand, countless scarlet magic shrouded the heroes. I saw the bloodshot wound just now, and innumerable granulation sprouts slowly sprung up and began to grow at an extremely fast speed, and in a blink of an eye, it was out of danger. Great. Saitama immediately gave a thumbs up. When the monster in the distance saw the person coming, they both ignored him and immediately became angry. How dare you ignore me? The next moment, he rushed towards Saitama without any scruples. It's annoying. Saitama's eyes darkened. For some reason, Genos shivered. Be careful. And Lightning Max, who was recovering, immediately sounded a prompt. Next second, the weirdo who clenched his big fist on the sandbag was facing Saitama's head, and his fist was about to fall. Sudden. In the sound of something exploding, the strange person who was completely intact just now exploded into pieces flying all over the sky. This sudden sense of drop made everyone around him wide-eyed. At this time, detect, go to the battle scene, do you sign in? The system prompter suddenly sounded. Finally come. The corners of Mubai's mouth also evoked a smile. He has been fighting all the time, and agreed to join the Hero Association, in order not to be able to run around the scene of the monster attack. Is there a condition for signing in? He no longer hesitated, and nodded immediately, sign in. The other side. Solve the fight with one punch from Saitama. Everyone on the scene opened their mouths wide. There is enough space in each person's mouth to accommodate the next fist. The wide eyes were filled with disbelief. To know. The weirdo just now has a complete understanding of how strong it is. Even the stronger hero Genos appeared, but he could only barely tie, and he was even overturned by the wind in the later stage. Until Saitama appeared, he was beaten and could not fight back. Such a powerful and terrifying monster. One punch. It was solved by the bald man in front of him. Is this still human? Teacher, Genos said softly, and was immediately awestruck. Isn't that his teacher as powerful as a god? Opposite. With a big wave of Mubai's hand, countless scarlet colors instantly enveloped the audience, including the damaged parts that began to recover, and even the monsters were eliminated by the other punches in front of him, and dirty liquid was spilled everywhere. It gradually disappeared under the countless scarlet colors. And the injuries, including all the human body surfaces at the scene, began to recover. Even heroes who had died on the brink of life, their chests began to rise and fall, and their hearts thumped vigorously. Puff, puff, one by one, they regained their vitality, and then slowly opened their eyes. It was still the familiar stadium, and there was a bloody aura around it, and one by one immediately turned over. The vigilant gaze still remained in the battle at that time. But in the next second, everyone was completely stunned. The monster has disappeared but cannot be seen in the far corner, and there is a large mass of blood amber, which is left by the countless humans who have been attacked. The injured people stood up one by one, looking at the body that had fully recovered, with disbelief in their eyes. And all the humans who have recovered from their injuries, and those who are not yet recovering, can see more clearly. I saw these countless scarlet colors wrapped around the injured place, and then radiated a warm current, like rain from the sky. There were even numerous granulation sprouts emerging from the place where the severed limbs were, intertwined with each other, and then the blood vessels began to be rebuilt with the naked eye. The presence of each one is completely like a drawing of the human body. Begins to grow under the influence of chaos magic, and then fully recovers without leaving a trace. How can this be? Lightning Max looked childishly at his broken right leg. Obviously his right leg had been eaten by the monster and all that was left were the uneven bone spurs. Under this miraculous energy, he completely recovered. Collapse. He gently jumped on the spot twice, and a familiar strength came from his legs. Others were disfigured, and under this scarlet color wrap, the flesh on their faces began to grow, and then the growth was completed, and they touched their faces angrily. Okay, I'm fine. I recovered. One by one wept with joy and cheered. They are all fighting for the heroic cause, but in the end they use their lives to buy time for ordinary humans to escape. In the end, it will be disfigured, and it will be miserable. Maybe they can't find the partner, let alone get married, and even after marriage, the wife may run away with others. Thinking of the terrible consequences, countless people shuddered. And with the restoration of everyone's attention, it fell on Mubai again. The mysterious hero whose whole body is wrapped in scarlet color, this is not the existence that was reported wildly in the news a few days ago, but I didn't expect it to appear in front of everyone. According to the association's report, the mysterious hero in front of him has completely stepped into the S-class hero. That is, it was the S-rank hero Magic Knight who saved us. And the bald cape man. Mechanical cyborgs have also come out. One by one, the heroes resumed their normal human identities, cheering and arguing. The field has returned to calm. In the huge crack above the gymnasium, the sun shines through. It cast a touch of warmth and brilliance on the entire stadium full of haze. Seeing the scene in front of him, Saitama showed a relieved smile. As for Genos, staring blankly at his completely broken mechanical body. Although the senior casted magic just now, there was no sign of recovery at this time. Quote. Genos sighed softly. It seems that his mechanical body still needs to be repaired by the doctor. However, having said that, it seems that seniors can also repair it. Senior. He immediately looked up at Bai. The begging eyes looked pitiful. Ice-white wry smile. However, the system prompts. Check-in location. Battle scene. Checking in. Sign-in is complete. Finally, after the progress bar, the new check-in is completed. Open sign-in rewards now. Sign-in reward. Tinder source. After a few big characters appeared, Mubai was immediately stunned. Tinder Source. Fertile. This is a special product in Transformers, and it is very special even for all obtained products. But this is really good stuff. Tinder Source. In the world of Transformers, it is the source of all Transformers' abilities. Planet Cybertron, it is Yuan Shi Tianzun, used the source of fire to create countless Transformers, thus enriching the entire planet and achieving an absolutely high combat effectiveness. The source of fire is the key to creating Transformers. Even the strongest Transformer Megatron has only a trace of the power of the source of fire in his body, so the mechanical body is enough, and it is ever-changing. And the source of fire can also directly turn the mechanical body into the most mechanical life form. Now that he has signed on Tinder, Mubai's mouth immediately evokes a smile. It seems, some play. This is a good thing, and how to play it will only be known in the future. Is it fusion? A new system prompt appears. Mubai shook his head slightly. This is not the time to fuse, but can he also fuse this thing? Although he had some doubts in his heart, Mubai still closed the system page. Looking at Genos, who was very miserable in front of him, Mubai stopped speaking and stretched out his right hand. Chaos magic suddenly erupted beside Genos, and countless scarlet colors in the calm space suddenly wrapped together, and then slowly flowed, condensing into a circular door. This Mengenos has been used by Mubai in other places. It seems that some mechanical things just can't get in. Right. Genos immediately thought that this was the wormhole opened by the seniors in the laboratory of the House of Evolution. Drop drop. Above Genos' electronic eyes, the red alert kept breaking through. Unexpectedly, this small wormhole has broken through the disaster level of dragon-level monsters. He couldn't help but shrink his pupils. Once this wormhole bursts, I am afraid that the entire stadium and even the current city will explode. And that's just a wave of Mubai's hand. Next moment. What? Just to hear a heavy object fall to the ground. Click. In an instant, a hole was smashed out of the ground, and the object turned out to be a black ball. I saw countless cracks all over the black ball, with faint blue fluctuations spreading in the cracks. Genos was very familiar with it. This is completely an energy flow channel. It is exactly the same as his body has been reconstructed. Next moment, Bai waved his hand lightly. Wow wow. The black iron ball actually had a mechanical joint movement. Then, the half-human high iron ball split apart to reveal the condensed space inside. In the blink of an eye, it cracked into something similar to a cargo table, which was displayed several miles away. It seemed to be full of technology, but Genos had never seen a single one. Wow! Before Genos spoke, Saitama, who was beside him, opened his mouth wide. Brush. He walked over in 2 steps, stuck his head out and drilled inside. Addicted to. In a jet of jet, the space inside the entire black ball is extremely cold. In order to keep these metal technologies active and retain the energy inside, Mubai lowered the temperature inside the black ball to freezing point. And as the black ball became bigger, everything concentrated inside also appeared in front of us. There are mechanical arms of the same type as Genos on the surrounding shelves, with black body as the color, which looks full of technology and bursts of power. Click. Taking a robotic arm from the shelf, Saitama immediately rudely took it in his hand and played with it. It's a bit heavy. After weighing it, he looked at Mubai. Why are you still researching this thing? Interest. Mubai smiled lightly. Fingers moved the shelf in front of him, and finally stopped at the 18th position. With a big wave of his hand, countless scarlet colors wrapped around the robotic arm, and then flew down from the shelf, took it in his hand, and Mubai waved at Genos. Okay. And Genos, who had been sluggish, reacted only at this time. Just like a student facing a teacher, 2 steps to Mubai, €. Mubai showed that he squeezed Genos' arm lightly, but dragged it on, giving Genos a thought. Click. The already fragile broken mechanical arm shattered again, dropping many small fragments. The ordinary heroes who gathered around to watch the fun immediately looked startled. Good guy. €. This is not repair, this is destruction. Error, error. Gently coughing, slightly embarrassed, Mubai started. He casually threw the number 18 mechanical arm in the air, wrapped in a crimson color. The heavy mechanical arm seemed to overcome the gravity. And then waved his left hand to Genos' Mubai. Chaos magic wrapped the space around the two of them, and then Gino's body floated uncontrollably. Everything around is drawn, in this small space. Gino's felt that his body was completely out of control and at the mercy of others, just like when it was repaired before, it was completely reduced to a marionette. But since the person in front of him was Mubai, he didn't care. After all, the senior will definitely not do anything against him. Except crushing his arm. Next moment, the mechanical arms wrapped in countless scarlet colors slowly rotated, and there was a slight change in appearance. I saw the incomparably thick mechanical arm of the black drum slowly shrinking under the scarlet color, and then turned into a model that was completely combined with Gino's. Originally, this robotic arm was not made for Gino's. With the many toys created by the mechanic's talent, Mubai always felt that there was something missing from these toys. It always felt that there were some fly in the ointment, even if a real mechanical body was manufactured and installed to form a real mechanical warrior. In the true sense, there are certain differences from biological warriors. So at the moment when he got the source of fire, Mubai was in his heart. The boulder fell, and he finally understood that what this icy mechanical body lacks is the intelligence similar to Gino's and the artificial intelligence like the G4. After all, getting the source of fire this time will have a qualitative leap. Next moment, countless scarlet colors covered Gino's broken arm, and then, with the wave of Mubai's fingers, the mechanical arm that was completely in line with Gino's body began to fuse with Gino's mechanical arm. Gino's silver mechanical arm slowly approached the connection of the black axis mechanical arm, and then countless black axes climbed onto Gino's arm. After a short contact, they finally merged. The lines and the blue energy center are finally completed. Mubai waved his hand. All the scarlet colors and chaotic magic in the space vanished into nothingness. Ha! Gino's landed steadily. With the installation of the new mechanical arm, Gino's weight also increased again, and just after it was repaired, another hole was smashed into the ground. Buzz gently waved the mechanical arm, and immediately felt a gust of wind, and Gino's felt it, and it was also a heavy texture. Really powerful strength requires his mechanical arm to exert a stronger texture with its solidity and speed. But now the strength has improved, but Gino's heart has the question that Dr. Kusno raised before. That is energy. Drop. The electronic eye accurately shows how long it can last with the current body if the highest power is turned on. It was only 2 minutes of high power time before. And now, it has been reduced to 1 minute if the firepower is fully on. However, the combat strength has increased a lot. Looking at the two-armed robotic arm, Gino's face was filled with uncontrollable joy. Nice. You love it. Mubai also nodded slightly. The 19-year-old Gino's has improved countless numbers after all. However, the title of Invincible Legend should be broken in the future. Now that the installation is complete. That Mubai didn't stop there either. Coming to the enlarged storage space of the black ball, Mubai reached out and tapped on the black ball. The black ball that has been hoisted and expanded into L storage space has shrunk again. Saitama also put the robotic arm in his hand back on the counter. Looking at the storage space in front of him, and not returning to the black ball from the constant deformation, Saitama gently stepped aside. The black ball in front of him looked directly at the product of Mubai's boredom. Imitation of Iron Man in the Marvel world, parts that can be continuously converted. However, the current level of development is not enough to allow the entire part to be placed in space, and the development of energy is still a problem. So it has been left in the warehouse. But this storage space is full of good stuff. Seeing the expression on Teacher Jian's eyes, Mubai didn't intend to hide it. This is a technological biological ball made by Mubai based on the compression principle. It has a certain technological compression technology. Of course, it is still a little worse than the capsule in Dragon Ball. At present, only some metal creations can be stored, and some living creatures may be stored in the future. Still, think of the Tinder source that just signed in. The corner of Mubai's mouth immediately evoked a smile. At this time, sudden. In the powerful perception, another character using superpower appeared within a radius of 2 kilometers. Not good. The ice-white complexion changed slightly. It's blowing snow. Chaos magic spread all over the surroundings, can detect the existence of all life energy-like fluctuations very clearly. Except for Saitama, which looks unremarkable and can perfectly control the existence of energy. Others more or less reveal some of their own characteristics. And now, when Fubuki came to the city, a battle had already begun, and the opposite. A special weirdo with a whale head. Grade, Dragon class. Dangerous blowing snow. Bai didn't have time to think about it, and he was covered with chaos magic again. Without hesitation, he rose to the sky. Before everyone in the field could react, Bai had broken the steel wall above the stadium again, and the chaos magic seemed to be just a layer of brilliance. But when breaking through this steel city wall, all the talents discovered that this steel city wall, which could block the dragon-level monster for a moment, was torn apart instantly by this magic knight's hands. What happened? Saitama was slightly taken aback. Seeing Mu Bai's slightly changed gaze, Saitama blinked. Is there anything else that worries this guy? Have no idea. Genos shook his head slightly, paused, and continued, but for Senior, it shouldn't be a problem. 0 inches. Hope so. Saitama then regained his calm. However, he turned his head to look at Genos' fresh arms, touched them and put them in front of his eyes, observing them carefully. At the same time, south of the city, not all of the S-class heroes were dispatched, at least most of the heroes stood there watching the show, and the atomic warrior slashed down, and all the enemies in front of him were all smashed into pieces. Still so fierce, Bang Ji-yu beside him stroked his beard. A calm expression on his face. The weirdo in the entire street next to it has been completely wiped out. That's right. €. It's a whole street. The defeated monsters jammed an entire street. However, such a record was insignificant to everyone present. Cut. The tornado rolled his eyes, waved his hand, and immediately countless tornadoes swept the ground. It seems to be in order to compete with Tsunere Loli, the enemy in front of him will disappear completely in an instant. Sudden. Her complexion changed slightly, and her right hand was immediately placed on her chest. Turning his head to look north, blowing snow. The sisters all have telepathy, and they are all banknote ability users, so every time the other party uses the banknote ability, there will always be someone who can probe the Tao. Feeling lightly again, Fubuki's enemy is a little stronger. Tornado no longer hesitated, the whole body was immediately covered with a green aura, and the whole person rose into the sky, breaking the speed of sound in the blink of an eye. Leaving behind the building, a group of S-heroes looked at each other. North. Battle scene. A little human girl with thin skin and tender flesh like you. It must be delicious. The shark monster, with a pair of small-looking eyes, constantly looked at Fubuki. Especially when he saw Fubuki's pure white arms and thighs, he immediately showed a masculine expression and licked the corner of his mouth lightly. When you open your mouth lightly, you can see the sharp teeth like a giant tooth. Humph. Fubuki didn't speak, just clenched his fists with both hands. The watch slowly exudes a green brilliance, and all the surrounding gravel and debris, including the huge roadside decorations, are floating. What? He threw out all the floating things against the weirdo with both hands and hit the weirdo. The shark geek showed a hint of interest, but he didn't dodge and just stood there. The muscles of the whole body are bulging, and they even put on a fit posio. Clap clap. The stone debris, including everything that flew up, hit the body without causing any damage. Fubuki gritted his teeth slightly. This is the limit of her ability. There are only a few objects that can be controlled, and her superpowers are only similar to enhancement. At this moment, she finally realized what stupid thing she had done. Ha ha ha. The shark freak burst out laughing, and the next moment he opened his bloody mouth and blew towards Fubuki. Compared with the huge monster, Fubuki is more like a miniature toy, and it can even swallow Fubuki in one big mouth. Blizzard was shocked. How to do? €. She shouldn't have run away alone. Seeing that the bloody mouth was already in front of him, Fubuki even smelled the disgusting smell in the mouth of the shark monster in front of him. She quickly stretched out her hands in front of her. At this time, €. Crack. A red lightning bolt in the sky suddenly pierced the space. Instantly hit the monster. A transparent protective cover also appeared on Fubuki's body. Boom. A figure like a god suddenly fell to the ground. Countless scarlet-colored wraps, chaotic magic wrapped around the body. Below this distance, the ground suddenly cracked, forming a long crack that spread to the street corner. Like an earthquake, the ground cracked open. All the houses around are shaken. Click, click. Under this foot, the huge force caused all the glass in the surrounding 3 streets to shatter in time, and the monster with the shark head was knocked out with a bang. Diadel diad. Countless thunder and lightning surround. Even if the chaos magic covered his face, he could still see that the people in front of him were furious. This moment, Mu Bai is here. The half-squat form appeared in front of Fubuki. Fubuki slowly pushed away the hands that were in front of her, and the expected pain did not fall, but the loud noise in front of her shocked her. Look up slowly. A scarlet-colored existence in front of him could vaguely see the shape of a human being. And at this distance apart, he could also see the hero who was blocking her eyes with his back. Fu Shui was slightly taken aback. Did this person protect her? For her to burst out such terrifying anger, such terrifying destructive power, and such a scarlet light all over her body, she could only think of one person. Looking at the existence so close at hand, she seemed to smell a strong masculinity. Unconsciously, a string in the center was slightly touched. But in order to protect the sister-in-law in front of him, Mu Bai had to suppress the power. Even his most ordinary strength is enough to smash the head of the monster in front of him, and even use chaos magic to crush the monster in front of him into scum. And the monster behind him was blasted out 10 at this distance. Kick, kick. The shark-headed monster hit the wall in an instant, but he couldn't resist the terrifying force. He penetrated the walls one by one and came 3 blocks away. Click. The huge body slammed into the last wall, and the body sank deep into the wall before it stopped. Seeing Fubuki's body covered with a transparent passport, Mu Bai was relieved. However, it seems that the wife is nearby. Quick fight. Before the decisive battle of Rex, their identities cannot be revealed. There are some special organizations in the Hero Association. No matter when their identities are revealed, the quiet life will disappear for Bai. And as for all the incomprehensible beings, look down. Cough, cough. Mu Bai hurriedly coughed awkwardly, then turned his head away. From the direction just now, I saw a pair of white dancers. My sister-in-law came out in a hurry, just changed her clothes. But Mu Bai didn't stop there either and stood up. Now that the sister-in-law crisis is about to end, the battle can be resolved. Wrapped in countless scarlet colors, Mu Bai seemed to disappear in place in a puff of smoke. For Fubuki, all that was left was a tall figure. But this figure seemed to be deeply imprinted in her heart. 3 streets away. ... The shark monster opened his mouth, and immediately spit out a mouthful of turbid blood. He moved his arm slightly, and it took time for him to feel numb, but he found that he couldn't move his entire body. Only the entire head can move. Looking left and right, his body is deeply immersed in the wall, and it is arranged clearly. Thinking of the terrifying force just now, I am afraid that only the Deep Sea King can experience that despair. That's right. In front of the Gate of Inheritance, he is also a clan member of the Strong Sea King class. He was ordered by the clan chief to exterminate the remaining human beings, but after discovering the horror of human beings, he completely left the battlefield and then arrived in another area. Unexpectedly, when I was walking, I found a little human girl. Those white arms and white thighs are simply delicious in legends. The bones of human beings are crispy, the flesh and blood are sticky and loose, and the refreshing feeling of the teeth, if there is a chance, it will definitely eat it again. Pity. A scarlet-colored smoke appeared in front of him, as if it appeared out of thin air, slowly emerging the existence that had deeply occupied his fear. Affecting the surroundings with chaotic magic, Mu Bai's figure emerges. ... The shark monster's pupils shrank. Before he could say anything, he saw a big hand magnifying infinitely in his eyes. Snapped. One slapped him on the head, and then grabbed the entire head. Work slowly. Click, click. In the countless cracking sounds, the scarlet-colored big hand completely crushed the head of the shark monster, and then turned it into a fingertip-sized ashes. Even the entire building behind it was slowly condensed under this terrifying pressure, forming an incomparably huge round boulder. This time Mu Bai's anger has reached its peak. Maybe it used to be a play on the geek or a one-punch fight, or even try his limits. But this time he dared to take action against his sister-in-law, then. He died. Gotta. The rest of the body was no longer under control, stumbling to the ground, and was then annihilated by the falling buildings and countless dust. Humph. With a soft snort, Mubai looked back at Fubuki again. I felt this kind of more angry strong feeling coming. The speed of breaking, the speed of sound could not be captured at all, and it was flying from the city in the south. Such an existence, I am afraid that in the current world, only one person can do it. Tornado. Euro. Since my wife is coming soon, there is no need to worry anymore. As the scarlet color slowly dissipated into smoke and dust, Mubai's figure gradually disappeared. The last glance stayed on the horizon, on the green figure. The next second, Mubai had already arrived in the gym. Find. Euro. Saitama was holding Gino's high. Oh no, it's holding two arms and shaking it up and down. As Gino's alright, I'm going to work hard. The bright braised egghead smiled like a fool on his face. I didn't expect these two mechanical arms to be so playable, and it seems that there are extremely sophisticated instruments inside, and they can also be turned into different weapons. For this design, Saitama immediately became interested. I can. Gino's voice trembled. Suddenly Saitama found Mubai, and just waved his hand and let go of it subconsciously. Puff. Gino's was smashed deep into the steel wall. Mistakes, mistakes, Saitama quickly explained awkwardly. However, his eyes turned to Mubai. Brother, lend me the rest of the toys to play with. Fine. Gino's weak voice forced an explanation, and finally pulled himself out of the wall with all his strength. Let's talk about it later. Mubai shook his head slightly. For the pure-hearted Saitama, it is still too boring. For Gino's, the strength that he pursues with all his heart is in the teacher in front of him, and it may be good to be the teacher's toy obediently. However, Jeros keenly found that Mubai's condition was much better. Don't speak anymore. Immediately assist the wall. Vomit. Unable to control it any longer, a stream of bathwater spewed out of his mouth. The other side. Blowing snow. The tornado in the sky stopped suddenly. Tear 1. Excessive speed. The clothes are instantly torn by the airflow. However, she still fell to the ground in an instant. The transparent protective cover protecting the blowing snow suddenly burst. Tornado regained its power. Looking at Fushui in front of her, she looked up and down, left and right, and she was relieved to see that Fushui was safe and sound. Fubuki bit his lip. She knew she was wrong. Didn't I tell you not to come? Why don't you obey? Seeing that Fushui was all right, the tornado didn't hit anywhere. If I hadn't arrived in time just now, you would be in danger now, you know. The short body is stuck at the waist like a little adult. The angel's appearance matched Loli's figure, looking like a little girl who reprimanded an adult. But it is very strange that the adult stammered and could not speak at this time. Fubuki opened his mouth to explain, but he sighed inwardly, and let it go. No matter how angry he was in his heart, seeing Fushui safe and sound, the anger in Tornado's heart disappeared. At that moment, she suddenly sensed a more powerful force that appeared beside Fubuki. I thought it was some kind of powerful monster, but after a while, the aura of that powerful monster and that powerful aura suddenly dissipated. Only then did she understand what a hero should be. And just now there was a terrifying battle here, but the battle has ended in the blink of an eye. Turning to look behind, then the tornado was also slightly startled. Right now, all the streets are completely destroyed. As if there was some special vibration skill, it shattered all the surrounding glass, and the ground cracked a long hole that spread several streets away. Including the building in the middle was shattered and cracked. And the first and most obvious crack was right in front of Fubuki. That is to say, this person fell from the sky, and the huge force seemed to tear the earth to shreds. This kind of terrifying power made her face a little dignified. And at the end of this force is a collapsed building. But the strange thing is that the collapsed building did not appear in place, leaving only a huge stone more than half a person high. The tornado fluttered past, gently stretched out his hand, a small stone next to it smashed on the stone. A brief shock made her understand. A hero appeared just now and smashed the entire building into the stone in front of her. She used to do this kind of thing often. However, after joining the Hero Association, it has become more restrained. And now this familiar scene reappeared in front of me. It made her think of the one who rebelled against her. At present, there is no one in the association who can do this. No, she was stunned for a moment. If she had to speak up, I am afraid that only the newly added heroes have this ability. That is to say, did he save Fubuki? Tornado frowned slightly. She doesn't know much about the new hero, but recently there have been several dragons and disasters in the Good Wind Pavilion on the internet, resulting in a huge array of new heroes. However, as for how the new hero trembles, I am afraid I will learn more about it later. For now, I owe him a favor. Tornado's slightly wrinkled brows slowly loosened. No matter what, as long as the snow blowing is fine. If something happens to Fubuki, then I am afraid that the Deep Sea Clan does not need to exist. The dust has settled. All heroes rush to the Hero Association again, and the city that has been destroyed will be rebuilt in a short period of time. At present, all the crises have been lifted, and the rest will be handled by B-level and C-level heroes. All S heroes are no longer bound by the association. At this time, Mubai came to the Wagyu restaurant he visited last time. Jin Yu suddenly remembered something. He stretched out his right hand towards Geno's and scratched slightly. Geno's, get me 2 of those soft, sticky ones. Chapter 91. Mubai was slightly taken aback by this strange action. Why did I suddenly think of my sister-in-law's vain dance? It seemed that Saitama didn't realize anything special. However, Mubai felt a little restless when he thought of that pair of XXX jumping in vain. After Wei Wei used chaos magic, Mubai regained his calm. Geno's remains respectful. Okay, teacher. He turned around and walked to the shelf, took out tweezers, and moved the contents of the plate in front of him. However, the soft and glutinous was sandwiched twice, but they were not sandwiched into the plate. After a war ended, everyone began to relax their nerves and not be so tense. But for Saitama, it seems to be just a game. Not surprisingly, the tornado and blowing snow should be heading home. Mubai isn't stopping either. I have something to do, so I'll go home first. If I have something to do, go to the manga club to find me. Put down some banknotes on the table. In a scarlet color, Mubai disappeared. Saitama just took a crane quail egg and put it in his mouth. At the moment, it's not the mouth, and it's not even if I don't drink, but I took a soft bite. Good to eat. At the same time, countless scarlet colors appeared in Mubai's bedroom. Mubai's figure appears. Brush. The paintbrush is still working, and new comic characters appear on the drawing board in front of me. About the finalization of the previous comics. Tokyo Ghoul. Guilty Crown. In front of the eyes have accumulated a thick manuscript. Mubai believes, as long as these 2 comics are published, it will definitely cause an uproar, and even rewash the entire cultural page. In that world, these 2 comics are very hot and heterogeneous themes. It was no coincidence that the blade of Ghost Slayer was able to catch fire in this world, and accumulated such a wealth in a short period of time. Mubai was also a little overjoyed. However, this is not the time to focus on manga. Wave your right hand to withdraw the chaos magic. Countless flying brushes stopped and obediently returned to the pen stand. Everything is calm again. Looking back, Mubai opened the system panel. Sign in to Reward, Tinder Source. Is it a fusion? The system prompt came. Fusion. Looking at the crystal-like fire in front of him, Bai nodded lightly. His eyes were full of excitement. To know what is being researched, it is the legendary source of mysterious fire. The rise of the entire Cybertron planet is inseparable from this thing. In some other themes, Mubai has a wider understanding of the source of fire. In the Transformers movie series, it was precisely because of the source of fire that the Earth suffered a series of attacks, and was even almost transformed into a steel planet later. And this is just the basic power of the source of fire. From this, it can be seen that how strong is the energy that the fire source in front of you can bring. What will happen after the fusion? Mubai is unknown. However, looking forward to it. As usual, chaos magic expanded out of the body, forming countless scarlet colors, wrapping Mubai in it. Next moment, a crystal-like source of fire appeared in front of Mubai's eyes. Mubai is also the first time to see reward items that are directly developed by the system. Brush. The countless crystals on the surface of the source of fire seem to flow like data, maintaining the image of the fire, but the whole reveals a sacred and inviolable aura. The source of fire is the sacred relic of the Cybertron planet. Just by looking at this blue source, Mubai was able to perceive the terrifying energy flowing within it. The source of fire slowly approached Mubai like a test. Without any difference, he drilled towards Mubai's chest. Sudden, Om. As the source of fire penetrated into the body, a huge earthquake occurred in Mubai's body. He closed his eyes suddenly. This fusion is not like the previous fusion of the power of the god of destruction and the fusion of the chaos magic stone to strengthen the body, with the penetration of the source of fire. The source of blue was completely integrated into Mubai's entire body. The entire chaos magic was surprisingly quiet, and it didn't have the vision that it produced when it fused the power of the god of destruction. Instead, it seemed to be more welcoming. With fusion, a special force spread throughout Mubai's limbs and appearance. Similar to the ultimate free will. Under the wrapping of the entire chaos magic, Mubai's image has undergone a great change. A layer of ice blue aura enveloped Mubai, and a huge ice blue flame developed behind him. Tinder source. At this moment, the source of fire is both Mubai, and Mubai is also the source of fire. Fully integrated, the powerful energy brought by the source of fire also slowly fell. A huge ice blue flame developed into the body. A blue flame totem also appeared on Mubai's chest. Open one's eyes. The scarlet color of Mubai's eyes appeared, but a simple blue flame figure that also circulated in the depths of his eyes. Look in the mirror. This weird pupil can almost be compared to the pupil technique in Hokage. But only Mubai knows. The change brought about by the source of fire is the level of power. It is equivalent to an infinite supply of energy. However, the energy from the tinder from the belt is not infinite, similar to an energy converter. As for why, chaos magic welcomes the source of fire so much. Because they are all energy conservation, under the echo of each other. The same root source, coexisting and stored together in Mubai's body. The chaotic magic in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is directly enhanced by the original condition. And the ability of the source of fire, which can change electronic machinery into biological machinery, has also been greatly expanded. So, both sides are even more powerful, coexist with each other in Mubai. The sun shines outside the window. Mubai could clearly feel the sunlight sprinkled on his body. The countless pores absorbed the energy of the sunlight frantically, and the source of fire in his body cheered. It is like a very hungry existence. At this time, it is very delicious to eat and drink a very delicious supply. This kind of soul-level excitement almost kept Bai in a very active state at all times. After a while, he immediately spit out 2 words. Good. Looking at everything displayed in the room, in Mubai's eyes, all can be transformed into pure data. A powerful ability similar to Geno's electronic eye, not only to observe data, but even to be similar to the ability of the creator, constitutes Mubai's system panel. This is the intuitive change brought about by the source of fire. This moment, Mubai immediately became the creator of mechanical life forms. As for what to do next, he pulled a scaled-down black Lamborghini from his pocket. A smile appeared in his eyes immediately. Sudden. Dang dang dang. There was a knock on the door. Master, Miss is back, she invited you over. Aunt Zhong's voice came from outside the door. Mubai immediately replied. Good. As the footsteps walked away, Mubai realized that his heart was half cold. Ridicule. Maybe I was focused when I fused the source of fire, but I didn't realize that my wife had gone home. If I guessed correctly, I am afraid Fubuki also came back. He was immediately worried. Will you invite a teacher to ask for guilt? After all, the wife said before that she brought the appearance home. When I set out before, I didn't think about the consequences, and now I think about it for a while, and I'm scared. Grind his teeth slightly. Mubai sighed. You can only take one step at a time. If everyone can see it, all disasters and dragon-level monsters can be solved effortlessly. Even world-class horror disasters can be broken by Mubai. He was a little hesitant and a little worried because of his sister-in-law and his wife. What a surprise. That being the case, Mubai no longer delays. Gently creased the shirt, then lifted the sleeves and dabbed a little paint. Mubai pushed open the door and walked towards the hall. At the same time, Fubuki leaned against the sofa and curled up together. He looked as if he was terribly frightened. A tornado was a little angry and sat opposite. Looking at the image of her sister who seemed to have lost her soul, Dragon Roll was worried and helpless in her heart. But when she opened her mouth, she still didn't know what to say. The powerhouse has always felt that he has no understanding of this mentality at all, and he does not know how to persuade him. Thinking of this, Mu Bai's figure immediately appeared in her heart. I am afraid that only Mu Bai can do it. After all, there is only Mu Bai, and only dead horses can be used as living horse doctors. As for Fubuki sneaking out, she was very angry at first, but thought that Yi Bai was just an ordinary person. Tornado could only sigh softly. Fubuki didn't know about the complicated thoughts of tornadoes. As for curling up on the sofa, she wasn't too frightened. Only, the tall figure in the scarlet color enveloped her heart. The masculinity that was close at hand, and the tall and sturdy image, did not hesitate to stand in front of the weird person, and at that moment, he stepped forward. It was the first time she had seen her in so many years. In contrast, the ferocious image of the eccentric seems to be just a foil, and the earth-shattering power that erupts at the end is really like the legend that the gods have descended. She has always lived in the shadow of her sister. However, her arrogant image has created her cold, too good, and her sister has been subtly affecting her. Everyone in the outside world knows that she is the younger sister of that genius Tornado. Including men dare not approach her at all, but who can see through her arrogant appearance and see that weak heart. She is also a girl at heart. And just now, that tall figure completely lived in her heart. Sudden, Mu Bai's voice came. The tornado is back. Then he froze. Ah. Shui Shui is also there. I thought you were resting in the room. I have to say, pretending to be nothing is really a test of acting skills. When asked, the dragon scroll immediately looked over and hummed softly. Fubuki also looked up at the same time. The stalwart figure in his heart actually overlapped with the figure in front of him. She was slightly taken aback. Especially from this angle. No, how could he be that person? Fubuki shook his head lightly, and immediately denied it in his heart. No matter how he probed the Mu Bai in front of him, he was just an ordinary person, and when he remembered that all his high-end sports cars were purchased by his sister. Fubuki immediately lowered his eyelids, trying not to despise him. He turned his head and looked at the news. On the TV in front of him, the latest attack was playing. Mu Bai also sat down intentionally or unintentionally, picked up the cup and took a sip. I really don't know what these weirdos are attacking all day. Alas. At present, the city has been fully controlled. Although, most of the area was destroyed by a freak, but it will be repaired in a short time. Distant statistics show that 5% of the city's population is missing, 10% are confirmed dead, and 20% are injured. This is a day worthy of everyone's mourning. Thank you heroes for their hard work. It is because of your existence that they give us hope of survival. Next, we will report on this incident in detail. The hostess in the news looked solemn. It can be seen that when it comes to mourning, the hostess is in a low mood. As a media person, it is very positive to have such a mentality, which is why news is regarded as one of the most concerned programs by human beings. Mu Bai was just about to watch the next event. White. The tornado opposite has already stood up. You come with me. After speaking, the tornado has already walked towards Mu Bai's room on his own. Good. Mu Bai nodded lightly. As for the news, Mu Bai was there and of course knew what was going on. Since the tornado wife summoned, she naturally followed without hesitation. But what are you going to do in his room? Come to the room. The dragon scroll immediately saw the thick sketches placed on the table. The ink was still wet. It was obvious that it was just created, and the room was filled with the smell of ink. It can be seen that Mu Bai worked hard before. However, the tornado didn't like the smell, so he waved his hand slightly to open the room's window, and then a stream of air replaced the ink smell in the room under the control of the tornado. In just a short while, the room has been restored to freshness. Tornado waved again and the window closed. Gently pick up the artwork on the table. Tokyo Ghoul. Gently reciting the name of the drawing, the dragon scroll was a little puzzled. Handsome. What is it? But the cover looks a bit terrifying. One left and one right, the two characters look exactly the same, but an ordinary human with black hair wears a one-eye patch, and the character on the right has white hair and a mask with a zipper. Scarlet blood leaked from the exposed mouth, and an incomparably healed tail was behind him. It's not me that's wrong, it's the whole world. Read the narration again. For such a role, she immediately became interested. For the entire pale picture, the ink has just been printed, and the positioning of the characters has just been completed. I have been reading Ghost Slayer before. I still know a little bit about comic tornadoes. Whether it is the painting style of the characters in front of them, or the character positioning and new ideas created, they are all in the top ranks of comics in the current market. The composition is clear and the outline is clear. For the current market, the same story is extremely impactful. Maybe it will really cause a new buzz after the release. If you guessed correctly, it will be Mubai's submission soon. As for whether the mysterious painter is Mubai, I am afraid this secret tornado is very clear. A slight smile twitched at the corner of her mouth. Longjuan immediately had a lot of expectations for this new comic, and suddenly the corners of her eyes turned to another creation behind. Sin just said the first two words of the name. Suddenly, Mubai's voice came from behind. Tronju, what do you have to do with me? Then the tornado gently put down the scroll, as if it was a very precious thing. Take my mind back, then I remember what to say. Tornado's face sank. Just now Haruyuki went to the scene of the monster attack. What? Mubai was immediately surprised. Then, is she alright? I always thought she was resting in your room. I didn't expect. He hesitated. Do not blame you. Tornado shook his head gently. Even if she's not super powerful, it's not something you can manage as an ordinary person, but it does have something to do with it. At this point, there was a trace of worry on her face. What happened? Mubai's expression turned straight. She has already helped Fubuki to solve the battle, and she didn't even let the monster hurt her in the slightest. How could it be? Thinking of this, his heart skipped a beat. Is it? Fubuki guessed his true identity. But it doesn't look like it, the slightly contemptuous eyes just now. Even though the changes were very fast, Mubai captured it very accurately. At this moment, Tornado opened his mouth slightly. I don't know the specific situation, but when I arrived, the guy who was on fire recently, Magic Knight. He has helped Fubuki to solve the battle, but since then Fubuki has been in a strange state. Strange? How strange? Mubai asked immediately. However, I was a little suspicious in my heart. Was it frightened by his violent battle? When he came, he shattered all the glass in the surrounding streets, and even destroyed the surrounding buildings. It was all because of anger and did not notice. And now that I think about it, it's very likely that. I don't know, it always feels like she's absent-minded. Tornado shook his head slightly, then immediately looked at Mubai. Is there anything you can do? Looking at her state, I don't know how to persuade her. Tornado Bai is full of worries written on his face, and he really cares about Fubuki. In this world, she only had Fubuki as a relative. After all, she brought it up. It would be a lie to say that you are not worried, but there is nothing you can do at this time. Touching his chin, Mubai pondered slightly. If that's the case, then use your best state to cook some special dishes. I don't think there is anything that can't be solved by eating. Looking at this blowing snow, Mubai didn't say much. Foodie is not my way of using delicious food. However, even if Tornado was so anxious, he first came to ask him what he thought. Mubai's heart warms. This strategy game finally has a result, and it seems to be good so far. Is it okay? Tornado suspicious. Sure. Mubai nodded immediately, his face extremely serious. Tornado then compromised. Okay. Then I'll try. But when I think about it, if cooking today blows up the kitchen, then. Looking at Tornado's hesitant gaze, Bai Gui lightly patted Tornado on the shoulder. Don't worry, you can. Believe in yourself. Woolen cloth. As soon as the words fell, Mubai was slightly taken aback. He could also clearly feel that the tornado was slightly startled. This seems to be the closest and most intimate contact with his wife for so long, and without reason. In the tornado mind, ? Why not be disgusted? It doesn't seem to resist. He hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to look at Mubai's eyes, turned around and fluttered toward the kitchen. Her affirmation came from the air. Okay, I'll try. Mubai smiled wryly. Tornado's hurried figure seemed to flee the scene, and he looked down at his right hand. Just now, this hand touched the shoulder of the woman who could destroy the whole world. This feeling, so cool. In the hall, currently, the biggest contributors this time are S-class heroes. There are also many A-class heroes who have made a lot of achievements, the most prominent being A-Class Hero Lightning Max and A-Class Hero Snake. Both A-level heroes have improved their rankings. Next, according to things, only all heroes will be commended. Fubuki watched the news in amazement. My whole mind was on that scarlet figure. Where is he? Who is he? Why did he save me? Full of doubts, Fushui was fascinated. Suddenly, right at this moment, suck it, her nose sniffed lightly. Turning his head and looking at the direction of the kitchen, a refreshing aroma of food came. Then, the tornado wrapped in an apron came out of the kitchen with a black ash on his face from nowhere. He was holding 2 plates in his hand, with a smile on his face. Blowing snow, come and have a taste. That night, with a bang, put 2 plates on the dining table. The tornado made its way to the kitchen again. And the tornado was slightly taken aback. Elder sister, there was something dirty on her face. But she didn't care. And, smell the aroma of the food on the table. Her product. An unsatisfactory sound came from her stomach. Under a ghost, she gently stuck out her tongue and licked the corner of her mouth, then stood up from the sofa and came to the dining table. At the same time, Dragon Roll came with 2 more dishes. In an instant, the table was filled with food. It looks red and green, and the various arrangements are extremely delicate, but what makes Fubuki most tempted is the smell of the food. Pick up chopsticks. Somehow, he blew the snow and put a piece of tofu in his mouth. Crispy and soft, the tip of the tongue is filled with a touch of spicy, and the tofu is so tender that it melts in your mouth. How about it? The tornado immediately cast a cautious gaze. This dish was learned from Mubai, but it took a whole week to master the essence, and this time it was made under the command of Mubai. Good to eat. Fubuki nodded immediately and smiled. It seems to be to show that what she said is true, and the brush has 2 pieces of tofu entrance. Like, eat more. The dragon roll quickly added some other meals and placed it in the blowing snow bowl. Since the end of the battle, the younger sister has been unhappy, which makes her extremely worried. At this moment, she was attracted by the food, and she smiled again, and it was completely the food she cooked. This brought a heartfelt smile to Tornado's face. But for some reason, seeing her sister's face with a little black and gray in front of her, showing such a serious smile, Fukiyuki felt strange in her heart. I didn't think much about it, and reinvested in the act of cooking. At this time, Mubai also came out of the kitchen. He was also wearing an apron, and he was holding 2 plates of freshly cooked dishes in his hands, all of which were Chinese-style stir-fries. It just kept stirring the pain in my stomach. The fragrance of food is completely different from the fragrance of flowers, one comes from spiritual enjoyment, and the other comes from spiritual seduction. Gently place the meal on the table. The tornado immediately added some and put it in the blowing snow bowl. Not sure what these taste like though. However, Fubuki still tried to put some in his mouth. Next moment, she was slightly startled. I originally thought that the taste of the dishes just now was incomparable and extremely delicious. And now, it is another experience at a different level, different from the one that melts in the mouth, but it has an endless aftertaste in the mouth, and a little fragrance and spiciness are just right. Countless fragrant flavors bloom on the tongue and completely reach the taste buds. The explosion-like spiciness has risen to a new level in the fusion of condiments. Putting it in the mouth not only has an endless aftertaste, but also the dishes are crispy, and the cooked meals complement each other. It feels like a mouthful of rice with a strong taste, which is immediately very comfortable. And all the meals on the table complement each other in taste, spicy, and mild, not boring or too monotonous. At this moment, she suddenly understood. Looking at the Mubai and the tornado who just sat at the table. The quality of the dishes on the table is completely classified, and the taste is completely different, but they can still taste from the hands of 2 people. In my impression, my sister has never taken the initiative to cook, let alone such a delicious meal. So the ones with less taste should be made by my sister. Even so, it's already excellent. Compared with those restaurants or big hotels that are all lost, my sister's meals are comparable. And when he thought of his sister's special training in cooking for him, just for this reception, Fubuki immediately lowered his head and tugged at the rice in silence. As for another kind of cooking meal, the combination of ingredients and seasonings is completely perfect. Not surprisingly, it should be from the hands of Bai. And think of it, not long ago, Mubai was just a waste, living in this home and never made any changes, and has always maintained the minimum income of the comics. For this society, it is just a low-level person. But now, this powerful cooking skill can completely beat all chefs on the market. Fubuki didn't know what to say. Thinking about the discrimination against Mubai before, she suddenly realized that she didn't know much about Mubai. And when I think of it, the White Dragon Mu Scroll. So much has been carefully prepared for her arrival this time. But she did something rebellious in order to prove herself for her sister, which made her sister and Mubai worried. Thinking of this, she felt a little guilty. Tears rolled in my eyes unconsciously. Fubuki, who used to be extremely proud, at this moment, completely showed the softness in her heart. Opposite, seeing Fubuki bowing his head, Tornado panicked. Fu Shui, is the food a little unpalatable? It's okay, you can ask Mubai to make it again. It's really not delicious. What do you want to say? It's okay, sister. Seeing Tornado's chaotic expression, Fubuki immediately burst into tears and smiled. It's because the food is so delicious. I think that I haven't come back to see you for so long, and the occasional contact is also busy with their respective heroic activities. I just miss you so much. While speaking, she also looked at Mubai. I have always misunderstood you. I hope you don't mind. No matter what, I'm very happy to see the change of Sister Nang. While speaking, she couldn't help but have this contact with Tornado in her heart. In many places, older sisters have made changes, including the attitude towards her, as well as the family, and the little family affection between the two. At this moment, she realizes, she and her sister have always been the closest, always. Fine. Mubai smiled slightly. Fubuki's words. Will the tornado be misunderstood? Mubai inadvertently looked at the tornado. The latter did not completely deny it, or even cared about it. Does it mean that the Raiders game has already had good results? Take a deep breath. Mubai calmed down. If the revolution is not successful, comrades still need to work hard. But seeing the black mark on the tornado's face, Mubai couldn't help but smile even more. Seemingly influenced by Mubai, Fubuki wiped away the tears from his eyes, looked at the tornado, and immediately showed a sweet smile. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Tornado was slightly taken aback. It was fine just now. Why are they both smiling so strangely when they look at her now? Is there something on my face? Tornado asked immediately. Bai immediately shook his head. No. Fubuki nodded lightly. Yes. Two answers one after the other. The tornado immediately waved his hand, and the mirror next to it flew over. I leaned in and saw that there was a black mark on my left face. What? She immediately widened her eyes. At this moment, she suddenly thought that when she was in the kitchen just now, Mubai had said that there was something on her face. Then he reached out and wiped it gently, but the tornado didn't refuse. But now, wow, the tornado immediately floated from the stool, the green hair floated, and looked at Mubai angrily. Okay, you guy, you dare to make fun of me. I want you to see how powerful it is called Trembling Tornado. Don't. Mubai held back his laughter, pulled over the stool, and stood in front of him. However, how could Tornado let him go? With a big wave of his hand, Mubai, including the stool, seemed to have overcome gravity and floated up. Then, Tornado waved his fingers. Mubai started spinning in the air. This difficulty is for Mubai, who combines the power of the god of destruction, as well as the mastery of the ultimate power of freedom, the breath of the sun, the power of the dragon elephant and the source of fire. It's like tickling. But since the tornado wife has accepted the setting of an ordinary person, Mubai immediately begged for mercy, and his Oscar-level acting skills were once again shown. In front of the dining table, Mubai and the tornado were constantly fighting. A joyous scene. Fubuki smiled from the bottom of his heart. However, the scarlet-colored figure emerged from the bottom of my heart again. Magic night. If only you were there. 3 days passed in a hurry. The news reports every day about the reconstruction of J City. In just a few days, the relationship between tornadoes and blowing snow has heated up rapidly. Actually, I don't care how you are. I just want you to be safe and live a good life. That day, on the beach under the setting sun, Tornado spoke to Fubuki. Fubuki also sighed and revealed his inner thoughts. Sister, I always feel that you are too good, so I always wanted to make some achievements to make you recognize me. But I didn't expect that I was too naive. What? The two looked at the deep sea, and under the setting sun, countless seagulls flew by. Showing the scene of soaring, the water and sky in front of him slowly condensed into a beautiful picture. Click. Mu Bai took out his camera, just to freeze the moment. Maybe, when I came to this world, I didn't know everything at first. There are even countless weirdos, and there are constant battles and destructions in this world, which are not beautiful. However, he also has people he wants to protect and things he wants to do. It may be misunderstood by many people, but this piece is real. After a short break, Mu Bai also came to the manga club with the final version of the manga. Open the door. In front of you, there is a lot of fun, flowers and plants are in full bloom, and the air is filled with fragrance. The equipment of the comic club in front of you has been updated. Contrast that with the manga club that had a musty smell and was helpless. The change at this time is simply not very good. Picking up a cup of coffee from the coffee machine, Mu Bai waved. Chaos magic wrapped the coffee cup and flew over, and Mu Bai reached out and took it. I took a sip of the coffee, the taste was strong, but just right. And with the arrival of Mu Bai, the whole house immediately began to spread the breath of magic. The newspaper on the table came into Mu Bai's hands, the chair seemed to have eyes, he came behind Mu Bai, sat down gently, and the newspaper opened by itself. The news about J City and the hero completely occupied the page. In the cookie cutter, Mu Bai finally saw it in the middle of the newspaper, inferring the chapter about the manga, Demon Slayer. At present, the cartoon ghost killing blade that is currently on the national fire. It not only brought huge income for Bai, but even rose to the level of national influence. Countless media and manufacturers found Mu Bai, sending countless advertisements, want to cooperate with. However, Mu Bai didn't care about this matter and chose to put it on hold. As for what's going to happen next. And now, Mu Bai looked at the scanner next to him, the drawings filled with chaotic magic automatically flew up, and then placed himself on the scanner one by one. Drop. The red light flashed, and a very clear and precise drawing appeared on the projection in front of him. Clap la la, paper flying. 1 for 2. The manga in front of him plays on its own like an anime. The latest upload is about the new manga, Tokyo Ghoul. The flying paper forms an anime, which makes Mu Bai's eyes shine for a while. Maybe, in this world, anime can also be made. Touching his chin, Mu Bai muttered to himself. After all, with the current technology, it is not difficult to make animation completely. And has been focusing on the sign-in and wife strategy, and has been shelving the animation. Maybe, we can do it next time. Moreover, Ghost Slayer has a lot of follow-up content, including animation and peripherals that can form an industry, but you can get in touch with the media and manufacturers in this world. And at that time, Tokyo Ghoul, and Guilty Crown, can also be made into a series of comics, which will be a new starting point. At this time, drip, the communication next to it rang. Mu Bai was slightly startled, very few people knew this communication number. He connected it at will, then waved his finger, and the picture that appeared on the communication was transferred to the projection next to him. I saw the figure of Genos appeared on the projection. He looked respectful and said, "Senior, Dr. Kusno is looking for you, and he hopes you can take time out of your busy schedule." Very sincere look. Okay. Mu Bai was slightly taken aback, and touched his chin. Genos did seem to have said such a thing last time, but it was a long time ago, and Shiro didn't care at that time. In the end, he devoted himself to comics and mechanical research. Now that I say this, it seems that this is indeed the case. That being the case, there is no need for Mu Bai to refuse. Good. He nodded lightly. You send the specific address, and I'll go after the work at hand. Genos in the camera was slightly startled, but he didn't expect Mu Bai to agree so easily. Okay. He immediately showed a look of joy. And then Genos moved a few times on his arm and stretched out his hand to pull. A complex and precise address has been sent to the huge projection in front of Mu Bai's eyes, and the system automatically reads 330s to take the coordinates that have been formed. Y City, Kusno Research Base. Then Senior, I will set off ahead of time with the teacher and wait for you here. Genos replied immediately. Mubai nodded lightly and turned off the communication. Beside, the navigation system automatically distinguishes. Mubai read it out softly, then touched his chin, and continued. I didn't expect it to be in City Y. However, in this way, the differentiation of the world is really not that complicated, because not only is there Dr. Kusno's research base in City Y, but also the 5th S Hero Emperor who is also there. And speaking of it, it is very likely that the most secretive Metal Knight is also here. In fact, the body of the Metal Knight is a human, named Dr. Beaufoy. Is a running-tooth uncle. And according to Mubai's understanding, although this uncle looks a bit weird, and it is purely personal preference, he joined the Hero Association in order to continuously strengthen the mechanical crops. In this way, you can gain more knowledge of mechanical creations and mechanical upgrades. This is understandable for the Hero Association. After all, being able to join the Hero Association is always for some purpose. Either like Saitama, he simply likes to do heroic activities to save humanity, or he just wants to get something else. For example, money and fame. It's a pity that Mubai is not interested in these. Just to have a reasonable reason to appear on the battlefield where the geek appears for the first time, and then perform a sign-in activity. That's all. However, for now, it is possible to go to Y City. Mubai has some interest in Tongdi's space compression technology and core energy technology. Before obtaining the source of fire, perhaps for Zhongdi's core energy technology, Mubai is bound to acquire. And now, just interested, nothing more. As for Dr. Kusno, there should be some windfalls there. Brush. The comics beside him have been constantly scanning and then uploading. Under the magic of chaos, everything is in order. Seeing these, Mubai couldn't help nodding slightly. Then, with a wave of his hand, a scarlet light door appeared beside him, and Mubai walked in without hesitation. Out of the magic door, the vision changes. I see. The walls of the limbs are full of countless sci-fi senses, the fine data beating on the steel walls, and the countless blue crystals together with the energy channels. But at this time, the blue crystal was in a calm and silent state. Because since the creation of this place, Mubai has not injected energy. There is an entire basketball court from the corner of the wall to the distance, and a supercomputer is placed in the center with a computing power of 2 trillion terabytes per second. About mechanic talents. In the process of continuous practice and advancement, Mubai finally got some gains. Prior to the promotion of machinery and the mastery of machinery. Afterwards, I kept signing into the arc reactor and the current fire source. Knowledge about mechanics can also be inferred again. However, with the invitation of Dr. Kusno, Mubai also does not plan to manufacture and develop machinery today. Next to the supercomputer is a small disk. The disk emits a faint blue light, and a crystal-shaped energy ring floats in the center of the disk. Different from Iron Man's arc reactor, Mubai's arc reactor knowledge is very comprehensive, and it is matched with the advanced mechanical knowledge of the machine god talent. The crystal-shaped energy ring in front of you has a handle that can be used as a weapon, and also has something similar to a shield. The energy of the arc reactor is enough to support a city-killing strike. The power is comparable to an S-class disaster. The shield is also fully enough to offset a city-level energy cannon. And this is only the most basic generation of arc reactor. Even if ordinary people possess such power, they can suddenly become strong. It was originally a creative play, but I didn't expect it. The power was so terrifying, Mubai didn't even want to take it out, and threw it on this energy-absorbing device. And this ring to the arc reactor can only be said to be Mubai's bad taste. This design concept, it was created based on Ultraman's summoner, the Ring of Light. Billions of joules of energy are produced every second, enough to power all cities combined for 2 days. There is still room for improvement after that, and it is even possible to generate hundreds of gigajoules of energy in the future. And in this place, the central area, the black gurgling ball lay quietly on the ground. This was the previous mechanical compression device, and the principle was equivalent to the mechanical mustard space. Adopt the advanced mechanical compression theory of the machine god talent. And for the entire laboratory, this is just one of the specialties. On the wall next to it, a set of steel parts is neatly placed. Fully face up to the gadget created in front of the old doctor of the House of Evolution, but it looks a lot more domineering and mighty. with swollen shoulders, breastplates and blades. The shield of light on the chest can be matched with a blade to create an explosion of energy like a phantom. However, so far, no energy injection has been activated. Although this thing is powerful, the energy it consumes is simply not a trivial matter. The design version of this item is in that world. From the 5 elements of light armor. It is also a real dream that Mubai could not achieve. The 5 elements of light directly absorb the power of the stars to complete the explosion. Once the armor was both light and the sun, the energy contained in it can be imagined. It is not at all that the creation in front of it can be realized. Looking at this armor, Mubai stretched out his hand and stroked it gently. Every line felt almost full of sharp texture, steel creation, and streamer design. In the world, this armor was the dream of many young heroes. Mubai's eyes were full of anticipation. Perhaps in the near future, the knowledge of mechanical upgrades will be strengthened again, and this armor will be completely available. After signing in countless things, the current advanced mechanical road. Mubai is also quite serious. However, today's protagonists are not these things. Look back. Immediately, Mubai pulled a mini black Lamborghini and a white Bugatti Veyron out of his pocket, as well as his recent purchase of a red Apollo. Even in a reduced shape, it looks domineering in a streamlined body full of mechanical sense. A mechanical killer with countless technological creations and a strong sense of power. Mubai no longer hesitated. With a wave of his hand, the 3 mini versions landed immediately, and then returned to their original shape. Mubai was not very happy. And these are the 3 protagonists of today. Look at the 3 sports cars in front of you. Mubai's eyes were full of anticipation. His purpose is to use the source of fire to create transformers. Transformers. It used to only exist in film and television dramas and surrounding animations. The power displayed is extraordinary. On the planet of Cybertron, the original Tianzun used the source of fire to create the Transformers clan, and later became the overlord-level existence that competed for countless planets. These mechanical lifeforms have no nerve pain and are naturally powerful warriors. Not only can it transform itself into bullets using deformed elements, but it can even store machinery and transform it into a steel weapon. Extreme deformation ability, adapt to various terrains. It can survive no matter what the harsh conditions. And the absolute knowledge reserve also allows them to build a strong group in no matter what kind of environment. These once seemed completely out of reach. However, it is within reach for Mubai, who currently integrates the source of fire. Moreover, the use of transformers is also very wide. The powerful deformation ability can deform its own metal at will, and the powerful electronic knowledge reserve is comparable to a supercomputer. Not only can it turn itself into an imitated mechanical body, but it can even simulate weapon modules. Look at the 3 supercars in front of you. Sophisticated data immediately appeared in Mubai's eyes. Including the length, width and height of the 3 supercars, as well as the powerful engines analyzed, all the data kept beating in Mubai's eyes, forming a complex system panel. Behind the special code are precise numbers, which only Mubai can see. And in his eyes, the blue special sticky fire source symbol has emerged, and behind him there is a huge blue crystal fire source development. At this moment, the source of fire has completely turned 10 into the system. Mubai touched his chin. He hesitated. Because, at this time, he faces 2 choices. Desperado Transformers or Autobot Transformers. In Cybertron society, Decepticons are synonymous with the police, the army of warriors and the thugs. The fighting force is powerful and violence is supreme. The Autobot Transformers represent the existence of skills such as civilian robots, workers, and architects. Each has its own advantages, but each has its own disadvantages. After a little hesitation, Mubai made a choice. Extending his right hand, Mubai tapped the black Lamborghini on the left with his fingertips. A little blue fire appeared out of thin air, and finally landed on the black Lamborghini, which was completely absorbed in the blink of an eye. Mubai could feel that the source of fire had completely merged with the black Lamborghini in front of him. He is not worried that the Transformers he created will betray him, because at this time Bai has completely incarnated as the creator. He has mastered the code of the most primitive gene of Transformers. The precise number is completely the life of Transformers, as for how this life is completely within Mubai's thoughts. Next moment, Countless streamlined body gaps appeared on the black Lamborghini body, and then the gaps became more and more cracked, similar to a rotating Rubik's Cube. Numerous modules deformed simultaneously. Flavor. In the mechanical sound, the image of the black Lamborghini changed greatly. The form of the car from the very beginning has completely changed into the form of a steel warrior. The 10-meter-high transformer looks mighty and domineering. The sharp edges and corners reveal a hint of steel chill, and a pair of blue pupils reveal the brilliance of wisdom. Fortunately, when the entire indoor swimming white was created, the space was expanded to more than 10 meters. Otherwise, there is really no way to install it for a while. Even so, in this huge space, the tall transformers seemed a little embarrassed. Owner. He knelt gently on one knee and lowered his proud head to this Mubai. From the deep imprint in his soul, the Mubai in front of his eyes is completely the creator. It is impossible for him to go against Mubai's order in this lifetime. Get up. Mubai nodded lightly. Looking at the big man with eyes, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but evoke a smile. I was somewhat satisfied in my heart. After all, Transformers was in that world, and the same dream he had when he was young is now standing in front of him. With a little excitement in his heart, he opened his mouth again. In the future, you will be called Haifeng. Yes. The steel giant immediately stood up. Thank you, Master, for giving me a name. Scanning the target with the electronic eye, the image of the wooden board and all the characteristics have been completely stored in the knowledge base. A powerful knowledge base, with countless reserves. Common mechanical life forms can share the knowledge base together. And the bigger purpose of Transformers can also be in front of this world with developed network, and the network together keep abreast of the latest news. This is a Bo Transformers pie. In the current world, Mubai does not need a strong fighting force to rely on. His own strength can already reach the peak of existence, although there is no way to call it a ceiling, but Mubai is very aware of the combat power of crushing dragon-level monsters, and he can walk sideways in this world. The creation of Transformers in front of you is just a moment of fun. But it's really nice to create it like this. Looking back, Mubai reaches out to another white Bugatti Veyron and a red Apollo. Two groups of blue fire sources started from the fingertips, and then landed on the Bugatti Veyron and Apollo, and they merged and absorbed in an instant. Brown beef. In the huge mechanical sound, the two supercars have been transformed. Owner. The two Transformers knelt down on one knee at the same time, bowing their heads in front of Mubai, showing their loyalty. Mubai looked at Bugatti and Apollo and said, "From now on, you will be called Beishan, and you will be called Qian." Yes. The two Transformers agreed at the same time. The creator in front of them completely mastered the basic codes of the two of them, and the gift of names at this time also allowed them both to have the basic conditions for existence. Three Transformers stand together. The time-space seemed extremely narrow, but the smile in Mubai's eyes became clearer. If these three Transformers are pulled out, in this world, in the blink of an eye, an uproar can be set off, and even the world's cognition can be completely washed away. But Mubai has no such plan. In his eyes these three are just toys. The genius of the machine, let's be blunt. It belongs to the highest-end mechanical god talent, and the ghost knows what kind of powerful mechanical body can be created in the future. And the fusion of fire source is just an accident. Without fire, people can also create Transformers in the future Mubai. The huge black ball that has been mastered so far is the knowledge of mechanical compression. It is only necessary to continuously master the knowledge of mechanical deformation upgrading, energy reserve upgrading knowledge, and even electronic intelligent terminals in the future. Ordinary knowledge reserve empty talk will not work. However, under the knowledge of three promotions, it is enough to create Transformers. However, Transformers only belong to one branch. The main line of machine god's talent is to create mid-range machines that can dominate the universe, space battleships and aircraft carriers. These are indispensable energy storage terminals. The equivalent that is enough to propel the flight of aircraft carriers and cosmos-level warships is simply not to be underestimated. And now, he raised his hand slightly and looked at the palm surrounded by countless blue light. It seems that there are countless blue sparks jumping around. If you feel it carefully, the energy spent by the three Transformers is created, but it is only half of the energy reserve. In other words, if you want to create a cosmic-level aircraft carrier Transformers in the future, it is not impossible. Chaos magic is at work at the same time. The power that these three transformers can achieve far exceeds that of ordinary transformers created with the source of fire. In terms of energy reserves and mechanical reserves, the three transformers in front of them exerted the combat power of destroying ordinary transformers. Look back. Mu Bai's eyes narrowed and he gave an order. Black Wind, White God and Qian, transform. Yes. Three transformers made a sound at the same time. Next moment. Wow wow. Amid the countless mechanical sounds, the three transformers fell to the ground and resumed their original supercar appearance. Bai came to the three cars and reached out to touch them. The body is full of streamlined body with mechanical beauty and smooth touch. It's exactly the same as before, and it doesn't seem to have changed. But Mu Bai is very clear. Compared with the cold machinery in the past, at this moment he can clearly feel the powerful vitality hidden under the steel shell of the three super sports cars. The doors of the three supercars open at the same time, fully welcoming the creators driving. Mu Bai smiled lightly. This one accidentally began to stage a harem chain plan. However, he did not hesitate, and went straight into the red Apollo. The black Lamborghini and the white Pagani Veyron have been driven for a long time, and Mu Bai has completely figured out the doorway. And under the strong driving talent, these two cars have long been unable to satisfy Mu Bai's passion. But Apollo, Mu Bai is full of freshness. When I got into the car, with a squeak, the door closed automatically, and the seat belt was fastened to Mu Bai. The countless instrument panels in front of you automatically turn on, and the precise digital oil gauge starts automatically. The car made a deafening noise on its own. Bai waved his finger lightly, and in the calm space in front of him, a door frame made of scarlet color immediately appeared, a streamer channel, and the appearance of it could not be clearly seen. However, Kai Yan is very clear that this is the master's creation. Don't hesitate anymore, rush into it immediately. The other side. With the restoration of vision, Kai Yan has come to an empty road. The greenery on both sides of the road keeps retreating, and the road in front of him looks extremely long. And this is what gave him the strongest passion. Amidst the roar of the engine, the Apollo drove itself to full power, and the surrounding trees kept retreating, as if it had become a phantom. And the ground also completely transformed into a long dragon, which kept disappearing in Mu Bai's eyes. Squint a little. Finally, a few kilometers away, Mu Bai saw a familiar sign. City Y. In the last kick of the accelerator, Apollo continued to approach Y City. At the same time, in a huge base, Dr. Cusno frowned slightly as he looked at the constantly calculated data in front of him. No. If this continues, the data will completely collapse. If no new algorithms are added, our research can only fail. Hey, he let out a long sigh. On the side, stood a boy who looked like a child. With a lollipop in his mouth, he persuaded, "Don't worry, uncle. We still have 10 minutes, the modeling has been completed, and the last calculation is left." While speaking, his small hands were constantly clicking on the keyboard in front of him, and his eyes were staring at the projection in front of him. Above the projection, countless data jumps. The most central position is a black square iron box, and data is constantly flowing out from this square iron box, and what he has to do is to constantly repair these problems. The young man is Emperor Zhong. However, Emperor Zhong is very clear. There are already problems with the basic algorithm, and no matter how to make up for it, it is to tear down the east wall, repair the west wall, and tear down the west wall to repair the east wall. However, he only needs to give him a chance to arrange everything completely. At this time, a cold hum came from the steel giant next to him. "You're young, you're only wishful thinking." A silver steel giant with a round head and 3 holes glowing red. The body is wrapped in thick and hard steel, and it looks like a mechanical robot. It's exactly Metal Knight. Crunch. Twisting his steel body, he continued. "Do you really think you can only rely on the wisdom of the two of you to develop a real mechanical folding device? The data is messed up again and again, and you really don't know why." Clear. Dr. Cusno's expression was gloomy. To complete mechanical folding, intermediate space physics Troy theory is also required. I have perfected the infrastructure data, but if I want to perform box folding, the current calculation method is not applicable. He clenched his fist slightly, and the face under the mushroom head was full of unwillingness, but what could be done with this unwillingness? The basic algorithm cannot satisfy huge data operations at all. If you want to perform mechanical folding, you need to strengthen the internal attack of the machine. The inner wall of the machine and the outer wall of the machine form different hierarchical concepts. Midpolar space physics, Troy theory. The fusion of space density and machinery is proposed, which greatly improves the stability of space and folding. This requires special clothes on top of the machine, but the complex algorithm is still a mystery so far, but according to the current level of science, there is a great possibility of successful experiments. Therefore, Dr. Kusno put this experiment back on the agenda. As the current generation of S-heroes, Zhongdi is the strongest brain. Hearing this news, he was also surprised and did not refuse at all, and came to the Kusno laboratory. Moreover, once this experiment is completed, he can also carry out further research in the near future. But I didn't expect that there were problems from the beginning of the experiment, and it has been carried out to this extent. He was also stumped. It's good to know. The Metal Knight calmed down a bit, came to him in front of the huge projection, put his arms around his chest and said, Troy theory, it is necessary to integrate space and machinery, stabilize the inner wall and outer wall to increase the pressure of space. There is a mistake, I am afraid it is not long ago. Count in trillions. Drip. The Metal Knight moved, the console in front of him. Quack. The data was deleted by Dr. Kusno and Emperor Tong just now, and it was restored again. It was like looking back in time, repeating the steps just now. Additional data will be added to each step of the operation. If you want to eliminate this data, you must change the language and use mechanical algorithms, but with thousands of mechanical algorithms, you can't calculate it all at once. This is what Kusno said to the doctor. It also corresponds to Dr. Kusno's desire to pursue the fundamental calculation method and select the most suitable mechanical algorithm for fusion. But once the fusion is initiated, there is not much time to consider. The iron box on the projection in front of him already has numerous dense cracks, which is a mechanical body called the mother box. This mother box is actually just lying quietly inside the laboratory, surrounded by countless elements to form a vacuum space, and all the special algorithms are completely transformed into the experimental mode. The connected catheter constantly pressurizes the inside and expands to the outside. Across the glass vault, Dr. Snow looked eagerly at the mother box inside. There were more and more cracks, but the experiment could not stop at all. He has been studying the Trojan theory for a long time, but he lacks a specific mechanical algorithm at this time. Back to pre-projection. Clap clap. Tong Di is still tapping the keyboard with both hands quickly, under the algorithm of tearing down the east wall to make up the west wall, although it can make up for the time when the mother box is broken. However, it is more difficult to really develop a mechanical folding algorithm. It's even more whimsical for you. Do you really think that an opportunity is so easy? The Metal Knight turned to look at Emperor Tong again. You do have a genius-like mind, but what you lack most is experience. This is your strength, but it also becomes your constraint. This experiment cannot be successful. The cold tone, as if giving an absolute order like death. Zhongdi said nothing. He gritted his teeth slightly. His immature face was full of tenacity, and even though he was so ridiculed, he still did not give up. So what? Finally, he picked his lips. He licked his lips lightly, and it was a little dry, so he had to tear off the candy wrapper from the small school bag next to him and put the lollipop into his mouth. Drop drop. More and more flaws are exposed, and the fund of funds is close to collapse. Damage. 13%. Internal coercion concentration, 20%. External coercion concentration, 30%. Space folding. Number. The result displayed on the supercomputer, Zhongdi was sure that he was not in a hurry for a while. Lightly licking the lollipop, even one hand is frantically tapping the keyboard, constantly filling the holes. In order to complete this experiment, Dr. Kusno intercepted countless experimental materials. Since one material is not good, then change to the next one. It is really not good. The two materials are used in combination with each other, and the third material eliminates the weaknesses of the two materials. As for the third material, the fourth material should be used for improvement. The fifth material, the sixth material plays each other. Hey, seeing the tenacious Tong Di, the Metal Knight sighed lightly and walked aside. The mechanical folding in front of me has been proposed as early as half a century ago. The Trojan theory was also born. This theory completely describes the fusion method of machinery and space, which is similar to the 100% ratio of medicine, and uses special materials to exert pressure on space. Different methods are applied to the exterior and interior of the material. Then different spaces were formed outside and inside, and the spaces collapsed, shattered, collapsed, shattered. In the continuous collapse and fragmentation, a stable and incomparably huge space is formed. But on the surface of the material, it only occupies a small part of the main creature's space. This is the Trojan theory. But to achieve it, the difficulty is very different. Including himself, who is also a well-known doctor of mechanical theory, naturally knows how difficult it is to practice. And he was also a friend from a long time ago with Dr. Kuss. It was only because of the different ideas later, so they parted ways, and now seeing this old guy digging his horns again, the Metal Knight is powerless. Drop, drop. The projection in front of him is constantly issuing warnings, and more vicious data are constantly circulating. Even if the west wall is constantly repaired and the east wall is demolished, it is still unable to curb the original error. If only a new mechanical algorithm appeared at this time. The light in Dr. Kussno's eyes dimmed a little. The only thing he could think of in his mind was the existence of one person. That is White, an existence that uses magic to forcibly rebuild Gino's parts. It is unknown whether the package contains mechanical reconstruction or not. Many people believe in science, and many people believe in magic. Including the origin of Mu Bai, known by the association as a magic knight. But having been proficient in mechanical theory for many years, he can naturally know how high the mechanical level of Gino's body is. How many years did he study to create a powerful mechanical body like Gino's? And after a short touch, the opponent can strengthen the theory he created. How strong is this mechanical talent? Or how horrible the mechanical theory is? Look at the countdown. Damage 15%. Hopefully, it's in time. There was a hint of longing in Dr. Kussno's eyes. No one is more looking forward to the birth of his own perception and a new thing to be created in her hands than a doctor. If Mu Bai was here, I'm afraid he would call him a good guy. Isn't this exactly the theory of mechanical folding? The so-called Troy theory is nothing but a void framework without digital confirmation. This kind of space collapse method is indeed the earliest space system enhancement in the talent of the machine god. With the continuous collapse, an incomparably empty space is finally forcibly constructed. However, without a specific algorithm, this theory cannot be supported at all. At the same time, laugh. Amidst the air jet weaving, the base door of Dr. Kussno's laboratory opened. Gino's, what do you think we'll have to eat later? Would you like to eat something soft and sticky? A young voice came. Then, the bald-headed devil wearing a yellow hero costume appeared in front of everyone. The cloak behind him is the image of a hero. The mechanical biochemical man beside him nodded immediately. Okay, what the teacher says is what? Gino's was extremely respectful. Ah, is this the laboratory you speak of? Saitama also looked at the laboratory in front of him, and immediately froze for a moment. It's so big. From front to back, it is almost the size of a football field. Compared with his small rental house, it is simply out of the sky. There are all kinds of bottles and jars, and there are many mechanical bodies connected with pipes. There are mechanical arms, mechanical feet, and mechanical bodies. The parts are fine enough to see the corners of the screws, and every now and then a green bubble pops out of one of the jars. Saitama was immediately interested. On the opposite side, Dr. Kussno also came over with a question. It's Gino's back. He looked at Saitama again and asked, "Who is this?" "No, this is the teacher I told you." Saitama teacher. Gino's immediately looked extremely serious. "Hello, thank you for taking care of Gino's for so long." Dr. Kussno immediately smiled and extended his right hand to Saitama. "Shake hands slightly." Nola, seeing that the person in front of him was a mushroom head, a smile appeared on the face of the bald braised Dantu. Saitama felt a little embarrassed when he heard about taking care of Gino's. Strictly speaking, Gino's has been taking care of his daily meals, and many times Gino's has been spending money on shopping. All right, he is a little embarrassed. Crunch. The sound of mechanical twisting was transmitted in the distance. Genos looked quickly. The round mechanical head has 3 holes glowing red. This. Genos was slightly taken aback. Metal Knight. Genos, how are you? Another voice also sounded appropriately. Tong Tong, Emperor. Genos was slightly taken aback. 2 S-class heroes appeared in the doctor's laboratory. He immediately corrected his face. Hello. But looking at the metal prompt in front of him, he always unconsciously raised a little bit of vigilance in his heart. On the other hand, the Metal Knight ignored him and turned to look at the projection in the distance. Dr. Kusno remembered something at the same time, and he immediately said eagerly. Where's the magic knight I asked you to hire? Where is he? Senior said it will be here soon. But according to his speed, it should be soon. Genos imitated Mubai and touched his chin. Right now. Wow. The sound of jetting from the laboratory door resounded again. Then, Mubai's voice appeared. I am coming. As the laboratory door slowly opened, the supercar Apollo slowly appeared in front of everyone. Then the wheels moved slowly and came to everyone's eyes. Wei Ka. The door opens automatically and the seat belt retracts automatically. Mubai turned slightly sideways and got out of the car. Senior. Genos looked overjoyed. Compared to seeing the vigilance in the eyes of other S-heroes, seeing Mubai Genos is simply exciting. On the side of Saitama, his eyes were immediately attracted to the red Apollo. He came to the car body in 3 or 2 steps, reached out and touched the edges and corners of the car, the round window glass, and the carbon fiber body with streamlined aesthetics. Good stuff. Although he didn't know what the car in front of him was, he couldn't help exclaiming. Mubai rubbed his forehead. I really want to say that he doesn't know this guy. But seeing Saitama's saliva dripping out, Bai smiled slightly. Deformation. Next moment. Niu Niu Niu. In the countless dismantling sounds, the red Apollo split immediately, and countless mechanical streamers emerged, each of which seemed to belong to a separate individual. What the hell? Saitama was startled and immediately took a big step back. Genos on the side was also slightly taken aback. The eyes of Dr. Kusno, Metal Knight, and Emperor Tong were all attracted. I see. Taste. In such a mechanical sound, the red Apollo, which was still a super sports car just now, suddenly turned like a Rubik's Cube, and it has completed its deformation. A giant more than 10 meters high stood in front of everyone. Mechanical head, mechanical body, with headlights on the chest, looks mighty and domineering. The entire steel body reveals countless mechanical aesthetics. Yesterday, 2 red wind blades start, as if there are countless flames burning. He stood beside Mubai like a mighty knight. Just under everyone's shocked gaze, he knelt down on one knee and lowered his head. Owner. Bai nodded lightly. The calm attitude is not at all sloppy. And opposite, everyone's eyes were as big as copper bells. Tong Di also ended the experiment at this time, and at the first sight of this big guy, he fell in love with this big guy, and ran over with small steps. Even the lollipops that I had been eating were put aside. Can I touch it? He looked at Mubai eagerly. A small man with a cowardly look in his eyes. However, Mubai was not very clear about how high the IQ of this young man was. He was just pretending to be blind. But he didn't refuse. It's okay to touch it, but if you can't find anything after touching it, then don't touch it. Mubai smiled provocatively. Eye to eye. Emperor Zhang suddenly discovered that this guy in front of him. He seemed to have discovered his child's disguise, twitched the corners of his mouth, and finally nodded seriously. The Metal Knight on the opposite side was only shocked for a moment, then immediately turned his head to look at the experiment where the data continued to riot. Clap clap. The mechanical fingers kept tapping the keyboard in front of him, replacing Tong Di to complete the addition of one material after another. Mubai also spoke at the same time. Give level 4 authority. Yes. Kai Yan's pair of electronic eyes scanned the person in front of him. Stored information on Saitama, Genos and the like in the knowledge base. The 4th level authority only has pitiful observation and touch. It can be regarded as observing from the perspective of passers-by, and there will not be any danger. Yesterday, in the crisp voice, Kai Yan put 2 flaming weapons into the scabbard. Cancel the combat state, all the weapons on the body are all collected. Hold your head high and stand aside to maintain your Transformer's form. Handsome. Saitama, Genos and Tong Di, the 3 of them shouted loudly. Not to mention how excited he was. Really, mechas are a man's dream no matter which world they are in, and now a real mecha warrior is in front of them, everyone will be very excited. Dr. Kusno watched this scene and showed a sweet smile. He didn't seem to have seen Genos so happy in a long, long time. And the era of playing with these machines has passed. Although there was a hint of yearning in his eyes, he still frowned slightly and remembered the question just now. Look at White again. Young appearance, handsome face, a straight suit, looks in good spirits. Too young. Dr. Kusno was shocked. From Genos' casual verbal description, Mubai seems to be very young indeed. I'm afraid it's not even 20 years old. Bye. After a little stunned, Dr. Kusno came back to his senses immediately, and hurriedly stretched out his hand. Hello, Magic Knight, I'm Genos' guardian, Kusno. I often hear him mention you. This invitation is also due to a special problem, I hope you can give me some advice. His eyes are very serious and his attitude is very respectful. Because the handsome young man in front of him is the new S-class hero Magic Knight who has been on fire recently, and he may even have unimaginable mechanical talents. Mechanical talent is powerful, regardless of age. Just like Emperor Tong, who was experimenting at this time in the distance, but only a few years old, but his IQ is very high, and he is currently the existence with the highest IQ in the Hero Association. If it is an ordinary person, I am afraid that he is still in elementary school at this time. And what about Apple? Being ranked number 5 in Hero S early, not only has a near perverted popularity, but even the fan base once surpassed everyone to reach the top of the list. The influence is even more profound. Who would have thought that this is just a few years old boy? But such examples are all around us. As for the Mubai in front of him, that's right, he's another genius. In this world, talented people are born in large numbers, and geniuses deserve the respect they deserve. Therefore, after a brief shock, Dr. Kusno immediately returned to his senses and looked at Mubai in front of him with serious eyes. Shake hands lightly. Mubai smiled lightly. It doesn't matter, but I can't talk about it if you don't hesitate to give me advice. If there is really a problem that I can solve, I will do my best. Euphemism, coupled with a calm attitude. Dr. Kusno's understanding of Mubai couldn't help but deepen. That's great. He nodded lightly. His eyes were full of hope. Maybe Bai could really solve the problem that he couldn't solve. At this time, drip drip, suddenly, an alarm sounded from the system panel projected in front of him. What happened? Mubai frowned slightly. He glanced at the dark wall next to it, with a special radiation sign on it. And behind this wall, there is a strong pressure, two kinds of pressure inside and outside, something is constantly collapsing and reorganizing. The powerful feeling of chaotic magic instantly penetrates the wall. A scarlet light appeared in his eyes. Mubai was slightly taken aback. I saw a black box, lying on the experimental bench very hot at this time, and countless elements were released. The inside and outside of the box formed two special spaces. And these elements are continuously fitted into the inner and outer walls of the box in the inner and outer spaces. Space is constantly collapsing, reorganizing, collapsing and reorganizing. But there seems to be a fatal problem. The space has never been stable, and it has been in a state of runaway. Clack clack. The black box kept cracking, but Mubai felt a little curious. Just curious, why is the quality so big in this box? At the same time, damage, 18%. A beep appears. Not good. Dr. Kusno was taken aback. He didn't care so much at this time, and quickly turned around and ran to the operating console in the distance. Countless sophisticated data is constantly jumping. After adding 15 kinds of materials, the data in front of them continued to spread, and then they were reorganized, and new problems were constantly generated. This is not an incremental relationship, but a geometric increase. Even tearing down the east wall to make up for the west wall is completely useless. The damage of the mother box reaches 20%, and the energy will no longer be controlled. His tone was serious. Compared to the relaxed look in his eyes just now, his eyes were full of rigor at this time. Looking at the data on the report in front of you with your eyes, you need to analyze what new materials are added in just 1 second, and what elements should be selected for fusion. It may be necessary to select 3 elements for fusion at the same time in order to eliminate the sequelae of one element. The space inside and outside the mother box has reached a riot, a little careless, a final burst will occur. At this time, damage degree, 19%. A new beep appears. The Metal Knight on the side has given up the operation, and he said coldly, "The experiment must be terminated immediately. If the rupture of the mother box really reaches 20%, the energy will riot, and your laboratory will also be wiped out." Click. He waved his hand to fish from behind, and a huge metal shield was already in front of him. When, standing on the ground, the Metal Knight needs to keep this body intact. No, just find the most suitable mechanical algorithm. Dr. Kushner gritted his teeth slightly. His eyes are extremely stubborn, his eyes are full of writing, and he will not admit defeat. Damage level, countdown, 60, 59. A countdown appeared on the projected panel. This represents the final safe time during which, if all utilized elements are successfully removed, separate the inner and outer walls of the mother box to bring the space into line. The energy riot, which is equivalent to a complete exhaustion, will disappear. But the experiment will also fail. The three red pupils of the Metal Knight looked at the extremely stubborn Dr. Kusno, and its metal body stagnated. Because it is in front of the console behind this mechanical body. Dr. Pofoy seemed to see them struggling in their youth. In order to study a topic, they can even go without rest for several days and nights, and it is this stubbornness that has created their strong knowledge reserve. But the panel in front of him has declared that the energy is close to collapse. This is the truth. Let's face it, miracles may exist, but definitely not now. The Metal Knight's icy big hand gently rested on Dr. Kusno's shoulder. Comfort from an old friend. 30, 29. The countdown continues. Dr. Kusno tapped the keyboard again, then clenched his fist slightly, looked through the transparent glass next to it, and looked at the mother box inside the laboratory where the body was constantly breaking. This experiment poured his countless efforts into it, and it has been shelved since it was restarted. I didn't expect that the research would go to such a high level, but it would end in failure, just like watching the child that I made with my own eyes but congenitally broken. No one can accept it. 20, 19, 18. In the final countdown. Standing firm in front of the operating table, Dr. Kusno's body suddenly softened. He sighed, "Come on." Sitting on the ground, his eyes were blank, which was in stark contrast to the state of high spirits just now. Dr. Kusno concluded this result. With a slight nod, the metal tip is about to cancel all experimental steps on the operating table. At this time, countless scarlet colors suddenly wrapped the console. What's this? The Metal Knight was slightly taken aback. The metal finger clicked but did not touch the keyboard, and was completely isolated by this layer of scarlet color. Subsequently, clap clap, the keyboard jumped on its own under this scarlet color. 10, 9, 8. In the final countdown, the experiment continued. The extent of the rupture of the mother box has deepened again. Drip. A prompt suddenly occurred in the projected database. The burst watch that has been completely red suddenly changes from red to blue, which means safety. And the next moment, on the projected screen, something similar to a DNA gene chain suddenly appeared, spinning slowly. The special symbols composed of countless English letters are constantly transformed, and then turned into specific data, completely replacing the algorithm that was originally unsupportable. What is this? It has stabilized, the Metal Knight suddenly exclaimed. Dr. Beaufoy, who was behind the operating table, also showed a shocked look in his eyes. Okay. Hearing this sudden exclamation, Dr. Kusno stood up from the ground. He quickly adjusted his glasses, and instantly fell on the operating table. Omega algorithm split recombination, half-flare algorithm, combination reversal. Dr. Kusner muttered to himself. It is right in front of me. The new mechanical formula displayed on the operating table has two very advanced offensives, which are split and reorganized and then reorganized. I saw. All the elements stabilized in an instant, and then arranged in an orderly manner between the inner and outer walls of the mother box. The space began to stabilize, and the countdown finally ended at the last second. The algorithm is correct and ready to use. The supercomputer sent out a beautiful voice and gave an affirmative answer. This. Dr. Kusno's eyes widened. How is this possible? There is such an advanced and sophisticated algorithm. Forcibly dismantling and reorganizing. It perfectly avoids the disadvantages and combines the advantages to form a space that integrates internal and external stability. Just now, in the research room, clap clap, countless lightning flashes. Due to the fusion of countless elements, various drawbacks have gradually emerged. This complex and repetitive disease has caused the body of the mother box to tear. Click, way caw. Cracks on the upper edge of the outer wall of the mother box continue to spread, and the chance has already spread to 2 to 0% of the whole mother box. Once the damage reaches 20%, all the contained energy will explode in one moment. The elements, good and bad, will destroy everything in a moment. Seeing that the degree of damage will reach 20%. Suddenly, a scarlet light gradually appeared, and then it was only attached to the mother box in front of him in the blink of an eye. As if wrapped in softness, all the manic elements on the mother box suddenly quieted down. This hand naturally comes from Mu Bai. And Mu Bai is also very clear that if there is no real mechanical algorithm, no matter how stable it is, it will only delay the time of damage. Contrasting this, the corner of Mu Bai's mouth immediately evoked a smile. He may not be very good at other researches, but the research on mechanical folding. That black ball has completely explained the problem. Advanced knowledge of machine god talent. Secondary mechanical collapse theory. It is also about the Bitroy theory, but the Troy theory is only the foundation, and the real talk theory is enough to collapse the space after reaching the third level. This large-scale look at him even surpasses the power of the air-conditioned rail gun. A single carelessness is enough to tear space apart into an instant black hole that devours everything. Regardless of all the exploration theories, the basis is completely space mechanics. Whether it is machinery or not, it is a container that can completely accommodate the collapse of space and the change of space orientation. Compared with the mother box in front of him, Mu Bai had some clues in his heart. With the projection of the spiral DNA structure formula about the mother box and all the experimental information slowly rotating, it was completely completed. Including the broken parts of the mother box are slowly being repaired. Under the wrapping of countless scarlet colors, the mother box slowly returned to its original state. It's done, Dr. Kusno said in a daze. His expression was a little dull. Such a complicated experiment, so simple. There is no joy after a successful experiment. Although the stone in his heart completely fell to the ground, he did not feel any ecstatic feeling at this time. He devoted all his life to learning, collected all the elements, even found the Hero Association, and asked for the legendary alien mother box to conduct space collapse experiments. With the deepening of time, mechanical folding has reached a high level. After consulting countless sources, Trojan theory was subsequently defined. Blend it spatially and mechanically using an infinite number of mechanical algorithms. But fail again and again. But it aroused Dr. Kusno's extremely powerful energy. Now, the theory is so easily accomplished right in front of our eyes. It is as if something that has been studied for a lifetime has only appeared in the blink of an eye. This made Dr. Kusno a little disappointed. Look back. A keyboard made of scarlet color appeared in front of Mu Bai's eyes, which corresponded to the operation panel of the supercomputer in front of him. Mu Bai moved his fingers on the keyboard. The supercomputer in front of me also responded accordingly. Last sound. Dash dash. Enter key down. The final theoretical input is done. Duh. A flash of lightning immediately appeared around the mother gold, and this lightning was deeply embedded into the edge of the mother box. As an opening and input port, it is similar to the opening and taking out of tools. The mother box has completely turned into a space mechanical prop. All right. Mu Bai stretched out his index finger and moved slightly. Gaba, gaba. The sound of the knuckles kept ringing. It is indeed a bit troublesome to complete the input of a whole theory, but the system produced must be a fine product. Mu Bai does not produce theory, he is just a porter of theory. In the eyes of Dr. Kusno, this action seemed to be a 100% victory. At this moment, he no longer doubted whether the power of the target was true or not. Because the current results have proved everything. Thanks. After a long silence, he finally spoke what was in his heart. Hands up. Mu Bai shook his head slightly. Truly a hands-on effort. And in front of him is only the basic principle of mechanical space collapse. Even if it is the second-level mechanical space principle, he can still perfectly replicate it. The biggest difference between the two is the size of the space. The principle of the first level is only equivalent to a space of 10 square meters, and the things that can be stored are limited. The second level mechanical space adds more data on the basis of the first level, which makes it more complicated, but it is an analogy with the principle of magic. It is the reorganization of space and also collection. The space is also enough to reach 100 square meters. And the black ball that he made at will before, the space it has is only 50 square meters. To put it bluntly, it is just a storage warehouse. Even so, Dr. Kusno was extremely grateful. Addicted to. In a burst of jets, the door of the laboratory opened. The unsubstantiated black box lay quietly on the experimental bench. Dr. Kusno walked into the laboratory, and then raised the black mother box with both hands. He knew very well the preciousness of this thing. On the other hand, Genos Saitama and Dongdi, who had watched Transformers, also looked towards this side cautiously. In Genos' eyes, as the doctor holding a new weapon. Saitama, time bomb. Dongdi, it turned out to be a success. The three stared at each other with wide eyes. The different languages can't be seen, and in everyone's eyes, the doctor has already taken out the mother box. On the table in front of everyone. Gently open the lid. It's just a normal box inside. Not a bomb, Saitama suddenly exclaimed. The sound startled everyone around. Zhongdi licked the lollipop. Who told you it was a bomb? This thing is called mechanical collapse, and the space inside is different from the space outside. Yeah, Saitama nodded thoughtfully, but he turned his head and saw Genos clearly. Do you understand? Not understand. Genos immediately shook his head in cooperation. While people are talking, Dr. Kusino randomly took out a huge steel arm like a Hercules from the jar next to it, which was originally intended to be used for strengthening the mechanical body test. The huge steel arms are simply out of proportion to the mother box in front of them. With the small size of the mother box, it is impossible to put down such a large steel arm. However, Dr. Kusno took a deep breath, and then slowly put the steel arms into the running in with both hands. The next moment, a miracle happens. I saw the huge steel arm slowly sinking into the mother box. It's all, at this time, detected the Kusno experimental base. Do you sign in? The system sound suddenly sounded. Yes, Mubai nodded immediately. Isn't that the kind of opportunity you've been waiting for? Sign in location. Kusno experimental base. Checking in. Sign in is complete. Sign in reward. Level 3 core energy promotion knowledge. The new sign in is complete. After one glance, Mubai closed the system panel. After all, it is only a matter of time for him to deduce the knowledge of the third level core energy promotion in the future. However, he did not underestimate this promotion knowledge. Secondary core energy is enough to create an arc reactor of stable elements. The third level core energy can even create new types of elements. The elements of the arc reactor currently used are just native elements on the Earth. Aside from the most basic elements, the radiation released by the current elements can only produce just a few million joules of energy. And once a new element is extracted, the joule energy released will be doubled. And its experimental base is equipped with a secondary arc reactor at this time, and it has already arrived, 200 billion terabytes per second. It also requires a lot of energy. If a supercomputing theoretical inference is made, half of the energy of a secondary arc reactor will be directly lost. However, the third-level core energy upgrade knowledge can extract new elements. Similar to the new elements created in Iron Man, it can provide more energy, stronger kinetic energy, and closer radiated energy. For the superlab that underpins it, there is an absolute improvement. Although Mubai didn't expect this thing that has been signed in at present, 343, is not important. Dr. Kusno's experiment is over. The mother box was put back into the laboratory, wrapped layer by layer, and sent to the deepest secret room. And after doing all this, Dr. Kusno let out a long sigh of relief. Looking at the crowd at the moment, he smiled. Today I am treating guests, everyone is open to eat. It may be unremarkable for everyone who eats, but only one person is cheering. Great, Saitama raised his right fist high. Afterwards, everyone came to a large restaurant in Y City. The luxurious restaurant in front of you is extremely stylish, and the surrounding decoration and lighting design are completely upscale. Inside, there are professional people who play the violin to render the atmosphere. The most important place is the hangar and the quaint piano, which seems to be expensive. A special person wearing a tuxedo with a white glove logo sat in front of the piano with 10 fingers, and UAA's music also made everyone present relaxed. How much money does Dr. Kusno have? Although I have never eaten pork, Saitama has always seen pigs run. Dr. Kusner is here almost non-stop. He is not worried about whether there are enough ingredients in it, but whether the doctor's pockets are full enough. Don't worry, it'll be all right. Genos smiled back. This smile also immediately made Saitama extremely relieved. Not everyone is Mubai, and not everyone has as much money as Mubai. Everyone came to the restaurant, after ordering a meal. On the square table in front of him were various kinds of ingredients. There are Australian lobster, what big abalone, and what I have never heard of. Mubai snapped his fingers on the table. A waitress immediately bent over. Sir, what kind of service do you need? Respectful attitude, with a sweet smile. The child emperor on the side was dumbfounded. But this waitress is really good looking. A bottle of Roman Conti. Mubai smiled back. With a handsome face and a handsome appearance, no matter who it is, everyone will have a big wish. And the waitress in front of her has seen the world. The table in front of me looks strange, but I don't look at the price on the menu at all, I just order food. So it must be expensive. Okay. Nodding lightly, she slowly retreated to the table, then turned and walked elsewhere. Tong Di swallowed, and he expressed his doubts in his heart. Can you really do whatever you want with your good looks? Okay. Saitama frowned slightly, did not understand the meaning of this sentence. Genos hurriedly coughed. Children, don't think too much, do your experiments well. Ha ha ha. Dr. Kusno, who was beside him, smiled and said nothing. The Zhongdi in front of him is known as the most talented existence among the S-class heroes. This sentence is true, but from this age, it seems that it is only a primary school student. But he already has the mind of an adult. The things that many people of the same age like are so naive in Dongdi's eyes. And he has such pride. Mubai shook his head slightly. After all, although the emperor is a child. But when the others were still playing in the mud, Dongdi was probably already playing Transformers. Now, mechanical folding has been researched. Looking at Tongdi's stagnant gaze, Mubai could feel the child's extraordinary state of mind. It can use a folding device to cover it up as an ordinary school bag, and then put in a lot of mechanical devices that he has researched. Even made a full line of Transformers. And at this stage, it has been in a state of paddling. For Mubai, who the world knows very well, he knew very well how strong Zhongdi's true strength was. To anger a mechanical genius, the price to pay is simply unimaginable. And Tong Dijin really researched Transformers, and at the same time was very low-key. This is the scariest place. Although he almost ran away because of his powerful intelligence in the later stage, he still remembered the hero's true heart at the most critical moment. What a terrifying mind is hidden under this harmless face of humans and animals. No one knows. And this is the emperor. Soon the Roman Conti, as Mubai said, came to the table. A professional wine waiter came to serve, took out a device that was also a mechanical device, and gently extracted a tube of wine and poured it into the wine glasses in front of everyone. The wine glasses collided, making a crisp sound. Definitely the best of the best. Then came the main event for everyone. All the ingredients are cooked, then add the seasoning. The fragrant ingredients. The last comment about eating stones, you were too much, immediately swept everyone's stomach. I'll start first. Saitama immediately grabbed the chopsticks, and without hesitation, inserted something unknown and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, Genos also made a big move. Something he didn't know was caught in his hand again. Gently tear open the tender meat and spill a little soup inside, which is extremely delicious and fragrant. A meal starts like this, in rhythm. Emperor Zhong did not fight or grab, and ate what was in front of him in his duty. Maybe I feel I owe this little kid, and the rest still added 2 big balls to Tong Di. After eating and drinking, Dr. Kusno was the first to go back to the laboratory. After all, the mechanical folding has been completed, and the specific theory still needs to be scrutinized. And the mechanical formula used by Mubai is very rare. After just one meal, Dr. Kusno put away his inferiority complex. There are indeed some terrifying geniuses in the world. Compare a lifetime of effort by the average person to these momentary bursts of genius. A. B. Might as well drown yourself in the dirt. D. Saitama burped as he patted his bulging stomach. The devil knows what they have eaten. Anyway, his physique is strong, and he eats heisei for a meal, except that his stomach is a little big and ugly. Other things are not bad. I'm home too. Supermarket sale at 8 p.m. Speaking of big sales, Saitama's mouth can crack. I'm with the teacher. Gino's also lit up. This is a great time to get along with teachers. Saitama was about to open his mouth to play with Mubai's recent sports car, but after looking at his stomach, he finally decided to walk home. All have left. Looking at the backs of everyone, Emperor Hao turned to Mubai. Thanks for your theory. I will probably use your theory for research in the near future. So far a very important research has not been able to break through. There are many places that need to use mechanical folding. After the call, Emperor Jing looked awkward. Mubai was also slightly taken aback. Let's talk about the main point. Hearing this sentence, Dongdi's body trembled slightly, then clenched his fists and looked at Mubai. I hope you have time to come to my laboratory to see it. I can't think of a simple theory. You must be stronger than me, and it is worth my study. Look at the boy's beating eyes. After being silent for 2 seconds, Mubai finally nodded. This is my phone number. If you need anything, I may help you. But maybe not. Eye to eye. 0. What Mubai sees in Tongdi's eyes is full of fighting spirit. Just like Gino's who first appeared, the fighting spirit when he saw One Punch Man Saitama. Sudden. Emperor Zhang suddenly bowed deeply. Thank you, teacher. Let's talk when you meet the requirements. Mubai shook his head slightly and turned to leave. No matter how strong this young man is, there is always a demon in his heart. With his strength, the demons in his heart will grow bigger and bigger. If there is a chance, I can accept this apprentice. In the joy of Mubai et al. Hero Association. It is also the deepest underground fortress, the central location. The place where the prophets live. Wow, it was silent all the time, as if the prophet who was in a state of suspended animation moved his arms. Quickly report to the upper floors. A group of low-level personnel in charge of guarding looked shocked. After the prophet made a prediction not long ago, he has been in this state of suspended animation, not eating or drinking. Every time a prophecy is made, the time for the state of suspended animation is also uncertain. And then the degree of crisis of each prophecy is also different. You must know that this time the prophet has been in a state of suspended animation for a whole month. If you don't eat or drink for such a long time, if you are an ordinary person, I am afraid it will be finished long ago. And the person in front of him is a prophet. Soon, about 5 minutes later, the arm that the prophet had been holding up was slowly lowered. There was blood on his pale face. The upgrade begins to resume. Wow, a piece of protection was lifted, and the elevator doors opened. The slightly fat leader followed by the thin female leader hurried away, both of them with serious expressions. There was a trace of panic in his eyes. After hesitating for a moment, the slightly fat leader pushed away the living room of the prophet in front of him. Because of the prophet in front of him, every prediction will be accurately voiced, and then there will be attacks of different degrees around the world. However, it is precisely because of the existence of the prophets that many things have been avoided. Since the establishment of the Hero Association, the entire society has been able to be in a safe and sound environment, and the great contribution of the prophets is indispensable. Even with prophecy, many things cannot be stopped. This time the prophet wakes up to represent another major event on earth. Therefore, the expressions of the two persons in charge were not very good. Arriving in front of the prophet, the female person in charge saw that the prophet was still awake. She first breathed a sigh of relief, and then her chest heaved violently, leaning against the iron door next to her. Running quickly for a short period of time consumed her physical strength, and even her breathing was a little disordered. You can see how anxious he is. The slightly fat male person in charge has a greater tolerance than the female person in charge, holding his arms, quietly looking at the prophet in front of him, waiting for her to wake up. Another 5 minutes passed, and the prophet's eyelids twitched. The next moment, she suddenly opened her eyes. Big catastrophe. Big catastrophe. The wrinkled face turned pale with shock, muttering to himself, sending out a terrifying scream. It seems that because she entered the suspended animation state for too long and her strength has not recovered, she stretched out her hands aimlessly in the air. What happened? The man in charge, who was more tolerant, changed his face instantly. He quickly grabbed the prophet's arm. Speak clearly, what exactly did you see? Wow. The female prophet seemed to have grasped the core, and her panicked eyes instantly turned to the man in charge. At this time, click, one of the prophet's teeth suddenly fell out, and it happened to be stuck in her widened throat. Woolen cloth. Woolen cloth. Because she wanted to express herself extremely, her face turned red in just an instant, she closed her throat and made a final voice. God level. Ah. The prophet, whose face was extremely red, instantly turned purple. His eyes were bloodshot, and he tightly grasped the arm of the man in charge. Even though he was scrawny, even at this age, the man in charge still felt a burst of pain. This. How much despair did you see? God, is it? It's a God-level disaster. Thinking of this, his face changed greatly. Looking back again, the prophet has already fallen on the futon with his head raised, his pupils dilated, and there is no longer any vitality. The slightly fat prophet looked shocked. Lord Sibabawa. Gudong. Taking a deep breath, he plopped down and sat on the ground. Big deal. In the panic, he immediately took out the mobile phone in his suit pocket. Hero Association. Top floor location. In the empty room, there were ordinary green plants, a computer on the desk, a slightly fat man wearing a black suit and short yellow hair, and gently put down the coffee in his hand. Looking down through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, the bustling city in front of you. Hopefully these days can last forever. He opened his mouth slightly and looked relaxed. There are a few wrinkles all over the face, and it can be seen that he is not young. However, with a straight suit and a straight posture, it can be judged that he has a high physical fitness. The city in front of me is full of greenery. The city is under complete construction everywhere. Although strange incidents are frequent, the heroes of the Hero Association are never absent. Moreover, the number of heroes is also increasing, and the hero levels of various classes are also increasing. With the improvement of hero recognition, the positive impact on society will also increase a lot. It is the purpose of the Hero Association, and it is also the purpose he issued. This person is the top leader of the Hero Association and the person with the highest decision-making power. Even if there are countless other controllers, the final decision-making power is in his hands. I sigh in my heart that the country is so beautiful. At this time, jingle bell, the phone rings. Okay. The man was slightly taken aback. This phone will never ring in normal times, even if it is a very dangerous dragon-level disaster. I believe that all the controllers below are enough to deal with it. Other controllers already have authority similar to that of a nuclear 10 bomb. Even emergencies can directly order S-class heroes, just like the previous incident of the Deep Sea King. Although that incident was dealt with, the results were a bit unbelievable. The Deep Sea Clan was pushed horizontally by all the S-class heroes, and the result was naturally, saving the lives of countless people. But because of the unpreparedness of the measures, many ordinary human beings lost their lives. In that event, many heroes came to the fore, and they were considered very beautiful. But just like that, under the terrifying dragon-level disaster, his phone didn't even ring. This time, the sound was mainly to make him feel suddenly. Line connected. Before he could speak, there was a rushing voice on the other end of the phone. See, Lord Babawa, passed away. What? With a bang, the master immediately stood up. He was shocked, and then his shock was not over yet, when another explosive news came from the other end of the phone. God-level disaster will come to the Earth. 3 minutes. As a dangerous level, the Hero Association with the highest control. The internal personnel are extremely transparent, the responsible department is conscientious, and the news flow is the first seen, no matter what kind of news. Propagation is the first way. The management and control issues that the Hero Association is responsible for are related to an entire supercontinent. From city A to city, each branch of the Hero Association needs to be responsible for the transmission of news. Although it is a heroic enterprise, it is also the first battle scene. Often there is more responsibility within the Hero Association than with external hero activities. And this time, Hero Association. Earthquake. Whether it is all branches of the Hero Association or the headquarters. Large and small conference rooms are constantly occupied, regardless of the staff of all levels. The meeting will start immediately. The constant and dense phone calls, from the top management to the ordinary assisting employees, have almost never stopped since 3 minutes ago. And the content of the phone is all, not for emergency plans. There have been many emergency plans for the real management and control department. The sound of shoes stepping on the ground kept ringing, and the entire Hero Association was almost busy. Whether it is the headquarters of the Hero Association or its branch, it has once again become the first battlefield. Hero Association headquarters. The highest decision-making room. Darkness shrouded the space. Only the conference table full of technology in front of him exuded a little dim light, which would not make the room so gloomy. Give the highest order. After saying this, the person in charge seemed to have lost all strength and slumped on the chair. At the same time, this signal appeared on all S-class hero communicators at the same time. Call, hurry back, command, and almost all S heroes couldn't help but change their expressions when they saw this message. The operation of the Hero Association, and the control of the world on weekdays, the top person in charge will never take action, or even participate in it. This shows that the known crisis level is still under the control of the Hero Association. And now, even the top person in charge has exited. It just shows the seriousness of the problem. Tornado Villa. Blowing snow. Tornado stood up from the sofa. You stay at home first. If you are bored, you can go to Mubai's manga club, including the currently updated Ghost Slayer Blade, as well as the latest serialized manga, Tokyo Food. Seed and Guilty Crown, both from his hands. What? Hearing this, Fubuki was immediately shocked. How is this possible? The author of this manga, and the latest 2 manga authors show that they are not the same person, 3 completely different styles. Looking at Fubuki's shocked face, Tornado smiled lightly. Maybe we all misunderstood him, but now he seems to be a very talented person, and he can buy several world-class supercars in less than a month, which has shown his ability. Hearing this, Fushui was startled. At this moment, thinking about the contempt for Mubai before, Fubuki felt as if there was a jujube paste stuck in his throat, which was very uncomfortable. And White, treat her like her own sister, careful, considerate and caring. In order to welcome her to play at home, he did not hesitate to guide his sister for a long time, just to make a few delicious meals. Now thinking about the comics she has been chasing, it can be said that she is her favorite author. In the daily life of a hero, he does not have the habit of chasing stars, nor the time to like a person. However, I once secretly promised this powerful author. The author's powerful talent is favored by Fubuki. Thinking about being so young and possessing such high talent, what kind of person is he? In the end, is White. It's her brother-in-law. Seeing the excited expression on her sister's face, most of them have already secretly accepted it, and maybe she will completely become a brother-in-law in the near future. And it is precisely such an existence that she has been despised and even misunderstood by her for so long. God, what have I done? At this moment, Fubuki only felt that the sky in his heart collapsed. Seeing Shueishui's dejected appearance, Tornado patted gently, but his sister's shoulder didn't know how to comfort him. However, when she thought that it was her, she immediately said, "The world is facing a terrifying problem again. This time I have only been summoned by the top management of the Hero Society. I hope you don't give up in order to prove yourself, it will make me more worried. And how much disaster will this time be? Horror, I can't tell, I hope." With a worried look, he looked at Fubuki in front of him. However, upon hearing this, Fubuki immediately raised his head and looked over. "Sister, don't worry, I'll be at home obediently." Good. A smile appeared on the Tornado's face. At the moment, he no longer hesitated, his body floated up, waved his hand, and the door opened. Then he rose into the sky in the blink of an eye, and disappeared in the next second. Destination: Hero Association Headquarters. Another place. High mountains and flowing waters, boundless peaks. Kurank, take care of the house. A golden-haired Bang Ji-yu straightened his hair, and finally stroked his beard. Pick up the coat from the door and drape it over your shoulders. In a state of high spirits, he walked out of the Bangu dojo. Yes, Chirank behind him wept bitterly. In the comics, countless flying brushes, it looks like some kind of magic has been applied. This is chaos magic. With Mu Bai's level of manipulation of chaos magic today, doing this is almost as easy as drinking water and eating. And the figure of Mu Bai. At this time in the huge underground of the manga club. It's still the same size lab as the previous time, and the space has expanded even more than the last time. 3 transformers, standing quietly behind Mu Bai, looked mighty and majestic. And Mu Bai is going on, the differentiation of tertiary energy. Completely ingested the 3rd level energy upgrade knowledge. In the past, some vague talents in the understanding of energy have become clear at this time, and Mu Bai's understanding has also risen from the level of ordinary energy to the level of innovative energy. The whole body was filled with scarlet color, and a radio telescope appeared in front of him. The chaos magic manipulated by Mu Bai under the radio telescope has begun to strip new elements through the space generator. The radiation released by the new elements is enough to create stronger and longer-lasting energy. This is also enough to create a 3rd arc reactor. This is different from the elements created by Iron Man in the Marvel Universe, because the elements created by Mu Bai, the energy released and the energy that can be stored completely overwhelmed Tony's creation. Even extracting this strong energy is enough to make the experiment in front of you look brand new. The computing speed, including supercomputers, will also be faster. And with stronger assistance, the research of the future target will also stand on top of the world. In a word, science is the primary productive force in the world. This sentence is very correct. And the talent of the machine god can bring far more than that. At this time, Mu Bai frowned slightly. With a flick of his finger, it hung on the wall, and the emergency communicator in his clothes had already floated up. Wrapped in scarlet energy, he came to Mu Bai. Call, hurry back. Command, through the number of 1, can only be the top decision maker. The top management of the entire Hero Association, the dictator, has the final decision-making power of the Hero Association, even if all Hero Associations make a decision uniformly, and this person vetoes it by 1 vote. All the previous decisions of the Hero Association will be in vain. The rights of this man are so terrifying. Now, send such a high-order notification. This shows that what comes next will be infinitely urgent. Mu Bai knew that no one dared to joke about such an order. And it is clear that the world is currently facing a crisis that is difficult to meet. The right hand still controls the experiment. However, after taking a look at the time status analyzed by the supercomputer, it is definitely impossible to solve it within a minute or 2, as little as a week or 2, or as long as a month. Hey, sighing slightly, Mu Bai still stretched out his hand and wiped it on the joints of the experiment in front of him. Elements that are being stripped or forcibly erased. Mu Bai no longer hesitated, and his whole body was covered in a scarlet color. Once again transformed into the most mysterious S-class hero. Magic Knight. With a wave of his hand, a door of space formed by chaotic magic appeared in front of him. The figure of Mu Bai has disappeared in place, the door of space slowly dissipated, and the figure of Mu Bai has already appeared in several cities. Brush brush, constantly stepping on the space, it is getting closer and closer to the headquarters of the Hero Association in City A. As the field of vision kept getting closer, the headquarters of the Hero Association also appeared in Mu Bai's eyes. It looks like a huge black obelisk. The steel fortress with streamlined shape around it seems to have risen countless levels compared to the steel stadium that I had encountered before. He closed his eyes slightly and felt the steel level in it. Special crystal tubes and countless energy unloading devices are secretly hidden in the interlayer of this steel barrier. The hardness and thickness contained are even enough to resist the invasion of missiles. So far, Mu Bai can only think of one person who can create such a device in the Hero Association. Metal Knight. Next moment, Ga, a green brilliance flashed by, and it had reached the entrance of the highest top floor of the Hero Association. The figure slowly fell, a dark green shawl, short hair fluttering, wearing a short skirt like countless ribbons flying, an angel-like face, and a fusion of lily-like body. Wife. A faint smile appeared on Mu Bai's face. Isn't this your own wife? As if sensing Mu Bai's gaze, Tornado was stunned for a moment. But after a glance, After Mubai failed to penetrate the chaos magic to detect Mubai's identity, she turned her head and walked towards the Hero Association. Mubai is close behind. In the midst of everything, countless heroes can be seen entering from the bottom of the main entrance. Mubai immediately understood. It seems that it's an emergency. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.